What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another Joe Everest, the fence expert, Ask the Expert Live. We're coming to you guys live from Standing Ceiling University 2021. I found some friends. So for the two people that don't know out there who you guys are, who are you?
Go ahead, Rachel.
Well, we're that online estimating program that you see on many fence contractors' website.
We've talked about it before here.
That's the creator and mastermind behind it.
So my salesman is the tool that helps save time and money, qualify leads, and hopefully gets rid of all the tire kickers. And I always tell people, one thing that I got tired of hearing is I just can't afford that, or I had no idea it would cost that much. Yep. We just don't hear that where we're at. With using this tool, we just don't hear that anymore. We took that out of the vocabulary.
And that's the thing, is that's such a painful thing to hear, because you invested some time on going out and coming back, and you invested time sitting and discussing what your solution was, what their problems were, and then to hear, I really thought it was going to be about half of that.
Right.
Well, you're done. Like at that point, or less, but enough to where this isn't happening. Right. And that's painful. It really is. Yeah. So, guys, we've walked through it several weeks here on the live using the My Salesman quote tool that we use on our site. We call it an online quote tool. Some people call it like a digital quote or an online quote. It's a powerful tool. And so when Matt was actually speaking here earlier, I cornered him and Rach, and I was like, all right, I get so many questions here on the channel. We're talking about it. We're going to talk about it live.
Yeah.
We're happy to talk with you about
it. We
are
passionate about it. Anytime that how many times have people said, I have a great idea, and they even put it on like a napkin or whatever.
Yep.
And it never goes any more further than that.
Well, yeah, that's what we talked about how many great ideas were out there that just fizzled into nothing.
This one literally was on a napkin to a drawing board to the computer, and it actually came alive. And don't get me wrong, I thought I wasn't going to help change the industry. It's a hard sale to get people to do something different, to think about the business in a different light. But we're finally getting that traction. People are finally saying, you know what, my time is valuable. I don't want to go on every lead. The 80-20 rule is actually starting to work. So I think we're steamrolling right now. Plus, Rachel's the face of My Salesman, and let's just admit, she's better at the face part of it than I am. I mean, really. Come on.
I like that was your description. She's better at the face part. Yeah. Better figurehead, maybe.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's the fun part. And actually, we were talking about that a few minutes ago, that for the longest time, I thought Rachel was my salesman. You know what I mean? Like, that's really the impression I got. So I met Rachel at Fence Tech. Fence Tech a while ago.
It's been a long time.
Where was it? It was Texas, maybe. Yeah, it must have been, I don't know.
San Antonio?
Maybe? A while ago. Yeah. It might have been San Antonio. Yeah. It might have been a little bit before. All the years blend together, it seems like. And Rachel was just so passionate and fired up about it. She's like, I want to show you this. And I was just walking by, and she's like, hey, have you ever used this? No, not really. She's like, I want to show it to you.
And and I didn't even actually work for My Salesman. I was just a friend helping a friend.
Really?
So I'm going to let the cat out of the bag. Here's what happened. So I come up with this great idea that I think is awesome, and I spin it to a couple of friends. They all think it's awesome. None of them are really in the fence industry. I go to my first Fence Tech in a little tiny 10 by 10 booth, and I talked about this earlier.
Yeah.
And I was like, nobody was even coming by. No one was giving us really the time of day. And I was like, we can't go on the aisles and get people. It's hard to get people to come in and see this. And a lot of people were thinking all this. So I said, you know what? Forget it. Next year, we're going big or going home. So I got a 20 by 30 booth right in the middle, put all my friends on the corners. Everybody thought that we grew into this huge software company that we blew up. And I got to be honest. We were just struggling to get by. We were faking it until you make it.
Yeah.
But it got people to finally start coming in, because they were like, well, what's that all about?
Yeah.
And I talked earlier about burning the boat. I literally went all in, and I just said, I believe in this product, doggone it, and it's going to make people's lives better. We have a great price point. I mean, you have said that it's actually probably pretty cheap.
That's what I was telling them, and kind of find out this is what everybody says. But what I was like, listen, don't charge me more, but you should be charging more for this. But just lock my price in, grandfathered in, but everybody else should have because for the value, right? We have that conversation on the channel a lot, is pricing according to value.
Right.
And the value you guys provide is phenomenal.
We've always said that if I can keep you from going on one dead end lead and help you land one job, I actually more than paid for myself for you. And that's a pretty simple concept. I want to ask people, how many dead end leads do you go on? I just had a guy from Pennsylvania say that he just went on 10 dead end leads in the last 2 or 3 weeks. I'm like, well, let's stop doing that. Yeah. Because that was more than $125 worth of your time. So just stop it. And let's just start going. And he said, he goes, I've got to do this. And he's in Pennsylvania and he had lots of great questions, but I think we've conquered a lot of them. And don't forget, just because there's trees or terrain or whatever, there's a range, and the homeowner usually knows where their fence is.
That's
anyhow.
right.
You're not doing it. The homeowner is.
Well, that's interesting. So we use at my company, Ozark Fence, we use it as a mandatory first step.
So do we.
Now, most of the time being like new home builds.
Sure.
That's really the one time that it does.
So can I let out a secret?
Yes, you can. I will allow it.
We have come up with this awesome idea for that situation, and it's going to be called a scratch pad, where literally they're going to be able to click on a button. Now, this isn't going to be released quite yet, and Rachel's probably, she's giving me that look like you should not be.
It's not even called scratch pad.
What's it called? Oh, blank canvas? Or
yes,
it's something where you can Google Earth an area where your house would go, and you'll actually click on the I don't see my house, and a canvas will come up,
a grid
where you can drop your house, and you can draw approximately how many feet of fence, and then it'll work that way also.
Wow.
I probably shouldn't be telling everybody this because we wanted to make it a big promotional thing. I'm getting the evil eye from Rachel. I am in big trouble. Forget I said anything.
It's in the works, and there's a couple more bells and whistles with it. But otherwise, I mean, the same concept, you can use the Google Earth view as a blank canvas.
You can.
Sure.
With that drawing tool, when you click and drag, it's giving you the total linear footage as you go. So if you happen to know,
we're just going to make it a little bit easier.
Well, because what we typically do is if a client if their house doesn't show up, usually we'll ask them, well, can you ask your builder for the plans? Like they will have a plan sheet for the outside. They'll show the building setback. They have to show the county or the city. Here's the setbacks. Here's the measurements of the lot. To where then we just process that through, right? So they could take those plans onto and I'm going to say scratch pad. I'm sorry because that's stuck in my mind now.
Joe, you have no idea how much trouble I'm in right now.
And what I found out right before I pressed live, Matt says, "Well, you're the reason you're in the middle is so she doesn't pinch me."
Right.
Thanks.
I
appreciate that.
Yeah. I hope your leg's okay over there.
No,
it's good. We're excited about it. I'm not kidding you, Joe. I just really am passionate about trying to help other people out. And that's why when I talked earlier, I just think that there's so much fun to be had in business that when you're beating your head against the wall, stop it, think about it, and change your mindset of what you're doing and think outside the box. I also tell people all the time, if you have a problem, name it. Give it a name.
Right. I like that feedback. Give the project a name.
Yes.
It makes it more real.
Right. Exactly. And that's why whenever we have a big secret release that we're going to put out, we have a code name in our office for it that makes it kind of fun. The other thing is I came up with, I wanted to solve a problem with our crews with handing in credit card receipts and all these things. So I gave it the acronym PEP, a pep talk. And it's an acronym that stands for some different stuff, and we're going to put it together. And I don't have it all finished, but we named the problem. So I think in business, where I know we're getting off to my sales.
No. This is great.
I think in business, when you have problems, name it, and then give it a name, and then that way, when you solve it, it has a name. And for a long time, we couldn't keep track of all of our jobs when we were growing so fast, and we literally doubled in 1 year. And that was a nightmare, by the way.
Yeah, I bet so.
Oh, my goodness. It was terrible. And we were losing track of jobs. So we made a thing called a WIP. It's a work in progress.
Okay.
And we named it. We named our problem. Now we have the WIP. And it's so funny. People will come by my office and say, hey, I was checking the WIP and blah, 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 blah. But now we named that problem. So that's a little secret out there that as you're growing, these mean not really, by the way. I use them all the time. And I always say these mean not really.
Right.
So everybody in my office is like, not really, Matt, but so give it a name and then address that problem. Just jump in there head on, figure out how to solve it, And then that way you'll have that name afterwards that everybody will know that's what we're solving when we do that. Little tidbit.
I like that a lot. I really do. And I'll be honest. So a lot of times in these conversations, like I want to just like end the conversation so I can just like take down notes and just take them back right now. That's one of mine. Good. Right? We're going to start naming, and maybe not even problems isn't the right word, right? No, projects.
True. Projects.
Right.
Anything you're trying to either fix or build or whatever, name it. So, we're doing in June, we're doing a school also with the AFA. We're partnering with the AFA to do on-the-road training. But in our building, I named it Operation Epic because I wanted to give it a name that everybody knew this is going to be a great. I hope I can measure up to what Caleb has done here. This has been fantastic. I've learned so much just in the short time, and I'm not really in the stain guy. We offer stain, but I use partners in the industry to do the staining. But I'm learning more from here. I should have done this years ago. I'm really irritated that I wasn't smart enough to come here earlier when Caleb offered it. But this is what we want to be. We want to get a group of people together. We want to learn something, talk about the problems, talk about the failures, talk about the challenges, talk about all that stuff.
Absolutely. And so one thing that Caleb and I spend a lot of time talking about, also Sean King, who will be here tomorrow for the fence side, we all three kind of talk about this a lot in that when you go to fence sec or when you go to any sort of these, any sort of trainings or anything, it seems like there's so much more value that happens after the event, right? In lobbies or bars or wherever. That seems to be where it seems like the bulk of the value is, right? And so one of the things all three of us were talking about was how do you turn that into an event, right? How do we just have that be all the content? And so that's really where Caleb's motivation came from. Now, obviously we have speakers, right? Sure. So you spoke and I spoke, but speaking isn't not everything speakers.
Right.
So right now, some guys are out learning how to sand and restore a deck.
Right.
So there's a lot of hands-on knowledge too. And in all honesty, so we're in the kind of would you call this the training room? Maybe this is meeting room.
Definitely the meeting room, war room.
That's what we call our conference room
/ dining hall. I mean, it's a little bit of everything. This is awesome, though. Some people are sitting around talking business.
Yeah,
I was just watching them. They're doing a fence washing over here, and I noticed it was awesome because I saw Caleb picked out a friend of his in the industry to answer a question that somebody asked. That guy asked that question, and then when they were moving on, about 5 other people went to that guy and said, "Hey, can you tell me one more thing?" I'm thinking, well, that's real training. Now we're training people. Now Caleb has another guy training, and he's already gone on to something else.
Yep.
But now that's what I thought was really cool about this thing.
Absolutely, and he's done that on purpose. He's tried to create an atmosphere that's conducive to small groups splitting off. To your point, like as we're sitting here, we've got 3, 4, we got 5 or 6 different small groups that are talking business or they're working on their business right now. Instead of, a strictly structured, this talk starts now and this training starts now and this, it's not all strictly structured, right? It's set up hopefully to be more of like the after hours atmosphere.
Yeah,
which I think is smart.
Yeah, he's doing a great job.
That's the same kind of model as some of the bigger churches are using when they have their small groups.
Right. Yep.
Absolutely.
Life groups. Absolutely. I think it's good too to have friends in the industry that you can call on. I mean, I call friends in the industry all the time.
Yep.
Hey, what are you doing here? What's going on here? Well, what do you think of this?
Absolutely. Because, the funny thing is when you're talking to fence guys and stain guys, a lot of them will say, well, in my market, that would never work because we're different.
Right.
Well, what we're finding out is all the markets are kind of pretty much the same. Now, similar. Unique.
Yeah.
Sometimes, I would say everyone has soil issue or ground issue, whether it's rocks or sand or clay. It's usually an issue. Like, I guess there's some guys maybe in Iowa that have just like good black dirt everywhere, but then they'll complain about they don't have enough rocks to hold up the post. So you get soil issues everywhere is my point. And so everyone thinks, well, this could never work in my market because my market's so much different. Well, not really.
Yeah.
Now, would it work in this exact iteration or this exact concept? Maybe not. Right. But with a little tweaking, maybe we can work through it.
Or, something that kind of resonates along the same line is, well, this is the way my dad did it. This is the way my granddad did it. But here's case in point, a family that, I mean, you do things different, Joe,
Sure,
that
sure.
your grandfather
You're special.
did.
Oh yeah. Hey, my mom always said that. My mom always told me that I was special. I thought that was positive. I really did for the longest time.
I mean, and look what you and Sarah are doing. You're like branching out. You're doing different things that your family didn't do.
Yeah, right. There's a saying, and I'll butcher this, but there's a saying something like the most dangerous words a company can say is because that's how it's always been done.
Right.
Exactly.
You know, and ultimately, like that's one of the missions of this channel is to try to share what's working maybe for me in my business or some people that we bring on in their business, right? And to say, you know, in my intro to my videos, it used to say something along the effects of, you know, I'm a third generation fence guy. I've been fencing since I was a kid. This is my family's way. There's more than one way to build a fence. Mm-hmm. I'd like to share with you my family's way. Right? There's more than one way to do it, but hopefully we can help each other. You know, like you said, you know, you reach out to others in the fencing community because they've probably had a similar problem, right? Hey, how did you tackle? Have you seen something like this? How'd you tackle it?
Right. Well, and it's not always even just with fence. I mean, it's with understanding overhead, understanding bond rates, understanding, you know, I've told people have asked me, what's the secret to success? And I always say, good communication with your bank.
Yeah.
You know, I go see my bank once a quarter.
Okay.
Mostly when I don't need anything because I want them ready. And then I give them forecasting of, hey, you know what? I see a workload coming on and I'm going to have to buy some extra material. I might have to increase my line of credit in August and it's February.
Interesting. Yeah.
And then I've already planted that seed. Now he thinks I'm a really good business guy because if I don't need it, then I solve the problem. And my banker's like, oh, he must have solved that problem. I always say have a good bonding agent. We do some commercial jobs where we need bonding. So get a hold of a bonding agent and start that early. If you think you're going to grow, start working on your bonding and your bonding capacity years before you think you need it because it's so hard to build. It's such a thing. Insurance guy. I love my insurance guy. Him and I are good friends. We talk all the time. I have an attorney friend that is a family friend that I go to for advice. I've got all these people and they're like my board of directors sort of.
Sure.
And they literally have helped me along the way in my business plan, but I communicate with them. I'm very transparent with them. I tell them I don't ever exaggerate or lie or fudge it or nothing. This is where we're at. Right. And sometimes I'll even call them and say, hey, we're struggling right now. My cash flow, when you grow by 70, 80, 100% margins, man, you can run out of cash fast. And all the research I've said, the number one way to crash a business is to run out of cash. You have to be able to pay your people. You have to be able to put fuel in the vehicles. You have to be able to take care of that. If you don't, you're going to fail. So I tell people all the time, love your banker. Go see him and tell him, here's my struggles. This is what I'm doing. He might have advice for you. He might every once in a while say, hey, you need to pump the brakes and slow down.
Well, and the interesting thing too there is by sharing what's going on in your business and what's coming up, he could have or she could have unique insights into, like you said, well, have you thought about this or the other? Or, you know what? I know someone. I mean, bankers know everyone, right? It seems like I know someone who's also done something like that. Let me put you guys in touch. My banker is the best networking guy I know. So now I call him all the time, like, hey, who do you know that does flat work concrete? Or concrete flat work? You're like, I got a guy. I'll email you his info. Yeah. They know everybody.
Plus, they know their financials and they know everything in the back. So they're going to recommend good people.
That's right.
So I have a banker that I use. So in 2009, when I started, I landed a big job, like a $200,000 job.
Nice.
And I went, I don't even know how to buy this material. It was a commercial job. It was for a friend that owned a construction company. It was basically given to me. It was like he basically said, hey, do you want this? And I said, sure.
Might as well.
So I walked into the bank and I'm like, I walked into Wells Fargo and they were, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't say names. But,
no, that's fine.
But they were like, nope, not enough credit history.
Yeah.
Went to US Bank. Nope, not enough credit history. Went to this little teeny tiny bank that actually one of the guys in the bank was my Sunday school teacher when I was little. And I'm like, oh, great. I will never get a loan here because I was a little bit of a handful. But he wrote me a $30,000 loan to buy that. And now we have all of our banking needs. And let me tell you, our LLC, our line of credit is pretty large because we were buying a lot.
We had a similar experience. We've had a similar experience where we were with a larger nationwide bank, and the thing with large nationwide banks is they have a lot more policies and procedures, right? Because they've been burned, like justly so. They're not out to ruin anybody's day, but they've been burned before. So which comes with rules. We learned kind of the same thing. So we ended up with a community bank, and actually with a guy I went to high school with, oddly enough, which I didn't know that when I reached out to him, but it kind of worked out. But a small community bank can really take the time to understand your business,
right?
Where a larger national bank, they have no room for negotiation as far as what their rules say. It doesn't matter if you show them everything and they talk to you and they're like, "This is a sure thing." If one of the check marks isn't in the box, it's got to be a no.
This bank, actually, I asked him years later. I said, "Hey, John, why did you loan me that money? You never even did a credit check." And he just said, "I knew you'd pay me back."
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That was it. And I was like, oh my goodness, now I can't leave him. He's guilted me into banking there forever. And,
That's right.
And now, annually, we probably run $1 million through that bank annually.
Yeah.
And they love it. And they're a small little bank. I'm one of their biggest customers.
It's a win-win.
Yeah.
Right? It's good for you. It's good for them.
It absolutely is. I love them.
That's the thing too, is to your point earlier about having kind of like a board of directors around you, just having these professionals in their field. Bob Veal always used to say, if you're not a professional, hire a professional. Right.
Yep.
So surrounding yourself by professionals makes your life so much easier.
Well, and by surrounding yourself with just good, educated, smart people that have already done it, and don't be afraid to say it's okay if I'm the dumbest one in the room, because I say that a lot.
Yeah.
And I've circled in my company, I have a lot of really smart people that work for me. Sometimes I'm like, holy cow, how did they figure that out? But they're good, smart people. But don't be intimidated by that. Embrace it. Embrace it when you don't know something.
Matt, that brings up an interesting point. So a question I get a lot is, well, how much fence do you build? And now, I say this, I've built quite a lot of fence. I've built fence since I was a kid and all that, but I hired people who are better at building fence than I am. Could we go build a fence, me and you, today? Probably.
Sure.
Yeah. Now, is it going to look the same quality as some of our guys can build? Probably not. Because we hired people with different skill sets.
Yeah. And, I think, too, I have found that I have some people that build a really good wood fence. I have some people that build a really good vinyl fence. I have a husband and wife crew that they build the best chain link fence faster and better than anybody in the market. I'll put them against anybody. I have another crew that does panel fencing. We have a national account where we do panel fencing. Nobody can beat them. I went out and I tried to put up paneling one day, and I did 900 feet in a day. And he said, "Oh, that's good, Matt. We did 1,800 yesterday." I was like, "Oh, well, I'm getting my butt kicked here," which is, I'm like, well, that's why we call you the moneymaker, and I'm in the office.
Yeah, he says, "Thanks for coming and playing." Now, stay in your lane.
Literally, stay. We use that. So stay in the lane. This is another. Man, we are really getting off topic.
It's fine. We do this all the time.
Okay, so stay in the lane. I'm a bit of an aggressive person. I like things done, and I like to attack things, and I want to get them done right now and go. I don't always ask a lot of questions. When I see something not getting done, I get aggravated, and I jump in and try to bulldog it.
No.
So we have a secret saying around there. It's not really a secret, I guess, but it's stay in your lane.
Sure.
And that's my guys telling me, I've got this. Go do what you're supposed to be doing. Because as a business owner, there's so many things in the background that they don't always know, and you're trying to get things done. Now, good communication with them on getting a project started. I've always said, when a project goes on too long, it's not good, because we need to get that one finished so we can get into new monies, right? Getting into new monies is a big deal on the accounts receivable, and keeping your receivables up and knowing where your payables are and all this stuff. But stay in your lane is our little thing of saying, okay, I'm going to give you a pass here.
Sure.
I'm going to stay in my lane. But I also tell them, if I don't see the car going fast enough and you're in the slow lane, I'm going to go around you and I'm going to go get it done. So it's kind of our secret little thing. Stay in your lane.
Well, I think that's great, because I think as business owners and people in management, I think we have a tendency to say, well, here, give it to me, I'll do it.
Right.
Because you see the problem, you know what your solution is, and rather than sit down, explain the solution, and walk somebody through it, just let me do it.
Yeah. Joe, I'm not kidding you. I've said it, especially early on when we were first starting to get going. I always said, just stop it. I'll do it.
Yeah.
And I wasn't growing. My people weren't growing. They weren't learning how to do it because I would just say, get out of the way. I'll do it. It's kind of like, can I talk? I hope my wife's not watching this, but my wife is one of the best women in the world. I love her with all my heart, but man, she cannot cook. And I'm going to probably get in trouble for this. I hope she's not watching, but I'm telling you know what? I take that back. She can make a frozen pizza better than anybody. She has it memorized. It says Tombstone. I'll be like, what do I set the 425, 18 minutes? Boom. She's got it memorized, right? But part of that is because she grew up in a family of 6, and the mom would always say, get out of the kitchen.
Yeah.
Go. Yeah. I told her the other day, I said, you need to go learn how to make dumplings. Your mom makes the best dumplings and sauerkraut in the world. Go over there and learn. So she has to go over there and learn. But that's what we do as business owners a lot of times is we say, get out of the kitchen. I can do this better and faster.
Well, and that's a great analogy too, because if you're constantly taking over and you're constantly performing the task instead of letting them, then all of a sudden you're surrounded by a team that they're not focused on problem solving. They're focused on bringing you problems.
Exactly. That's man. I'm just going to go on all these different topics. So we have a kind of a rule. Don't bring me a problem without 2 solutions for me to pick, because I can't give a haircut over the phone, right?
I like that saying so much.
So I tell our people, and now they're starting to figure it out. They'll call me and they'll say, hey, because we do travel a lot. We have these national accounts that they ask us to go and all over the country. We went as far as South America to do a job.
Really?
Yeah. We did 124 foot tall net in South America.
124 feet.
124 feet tall. It was awesome.
Wow.
And I worked with 8 to 10 Peruvians that spoke no English. It was awesome. I loved it. What a cultural shock it was for me.
So just pausing on that, Kyle, I'm trying to wrap my brain around it.
Buddy trail.
No, yeah, it is. What was the use case for it? What problem was it solving?
So in Lima, Peru, they're very landlocked, and they have about 2 golf courses in the entire country of Peru. And in Lima, the number 1 course in the nation is right in the middle of the city with these huge buildings all the way around. Well, they needed a driving range. So what they did is they put 2 really tall nets together on an area. They moved a couple holes around, and they made it really tight, but they had to make it really tall because of the driving range area.
Yeah.
Well, they had gotten started. They'd started digging the holes and setting the post, and all of a sudden the contractor couldn't handle the fact that he had to work with locals that spoke no English, so he bailed on them. He just got on a plane and ran. So I got a phone call on a whim that said, hey, I talked to a friend of yours in California that said you were crazy enough to probably come down here. I shot out a ridiculous number. I said, you can't afford to have me come down there. And they said, okay, well, we can do it for that. And I said, well, when do you need me there? And they said, tomorrow. And I went, oh, crap. We were in Finstech in Arizona. So I flew home from Arizona, stayed at the airport, got on a plane, and flew to Lima, Peru. It was crazy. It was a great job, though. But it really taught me a lot, because I saw also how those people lived. Most of those employees there were making $1 an hour with an 8-hour lock. They could only work 8 hours, and they drove 2 hours to get to work. So it really made, and they would be 5 or 6 people in a car coming. It really hit my heart that these people, like we see poverty in America, and we have it in America, but this was at a whole nother level. I mean, it emotionally messed with me, because I was like, I have all these guys here, and there's 10 guys here making $1 an hour. It's $10. They're going to pay them $80 for the whole damn day. I mean, I was like, this doesn't even make sense to me.
No.
I didn't even know this was ethically possible in the world. But anyhow, with that being said, I totally lost track of what we were talking about, Joe.
That's all right, because we've got some comments.
Okay.
And I think you know where these are headed.
Oh, no.
Fishing and Picking says, dang, wife burn.
Oh,
that's
yes. I am in big trouble.
That can't be good. And then Wade said what we're all thinking. In the doghouse tonight. That's a laughing, crying emoji.
Yes. Yeah. I did not spill the entire beans that for the first 2 years of our marriage, we ate green bean casserole 3 nights a week, because once she figured out how to make that, that's all she would make. So after about the second year, I went to her sisters and I said, hey, do you guys think that maybe you could share a recipe with Melanie other than green bean casserole? Because just because you put meat in the green bean casserole does not make it the whole meal.
Not the main course.
It's not the main course. So yes, I hope Melanie is not, by the way, I love her with all my heart. Honey, honey, you look really nice today.
That's a good one.
How's that?
That's a good one. So I think still doghouse, but not as bad.
I'm in big trouble. Yikes.
Well, let's kind of steer the ship back towards my salesman.
Okay.
Because, man, I'll be honest, you've done the bulk of the talking.
All right, I'll shut up.
And Rachel's just been sitting here. So we're going to let Rachel talk for a little while. No, it's funny. So as I said before, and I guess it's not uncommon, I really felt like Rachel was my salesman until I learned more about the company and all that. I think that's interesting. And so this probably also relates back to you putting people in the position where they can excel. Right. So you saw something in Rachel that she was going to excel. She was going to drive the boat. How did that decision work? If you don't mind sharing.
Go ahead.
Well, it first started when Matt asked my husband and I to go to Fence Tech and show the products at the show. And that was Orlando, probably 7-8 Fence Techs ago.
Okay.
And, it was just, Matt had presented my salesman, his kitchen table or having drinks and bringing out his, marker board, which he's famous for a marker board.
Is that normal when you have people over for like dinner and drinks? You also bring out the whiteboard?
I'm a pretty passionate guy. So I want you to understand what the hell I'm trying to say.
It requires some illustration.
So at that point further, we're like, we're not in the fence industry. We're not in the fence business whatsoever. And that is pretty, Matt's a pretty passionate guy. If you kind of notice that about him, we're like, he's going to do something with that. And then once he started getting it developed and there was something to show, that's when we went to go help him at Fence Tech. Nice. And then I suppose 3 or 4 Fence Techs after that, Jamie, who is Matt's brother-in-law, was running
I didn't know
my
that.
salesman.
Yep. Okay.
Yep. He was running my salesman's day-to-day, but he was also in a lift hanging a net, doing that and do some estimating. So, and it's probably project managing a little bit.
He was doing it all. Jamie's been with us since the beginning. Yeah. So he was literally running projects, selling my salesman, installing nets. There was only 4 or 5 of us, and we were just literally burning the candle, making the candle, selling the candle, marketing the candle. It was a nightmare. The biggest thing that attracted us for Rachel, though, was her passion for customer service. She gets so bothered if anybody's, you said it earlier.
Yeah.
It's almost like she's sitting there waiting for you to send her a problem.
Well, here's how I picture it. So in Rachel's office, there's like this big, like alarm light. And as soon as an email comes in, it goes, wooga, wooga. She's like, I got to answer this email right now. I'm serious. Like, there's been some times where I'll email Rachel and it's like, I didn't have time to press send on this thing. And she's like, you know what? Great question. I'll be right back with you. Or something to that effect. I think that's phenomenal. Like from a customer service perspective, phenomenal. It absolutely is. And, the thing I like about Rachel is when she says she's going to figure something out, she's absolutely going to figure it out. Like that. Sometimes in some customer service situations, that might not be the case, right?
Well, and I'll tell you too, work ethic is such a big deal. 3 summers ago, we really grew, and we were running out. The summers are slow for my salesman.
Sure.
And we were running out of. We're running out of crews. We were running out of salespeople. So she went and sold jobs. She went and carried pickets. Melanie has carried pickets. The girls in the office have come out and carried pickets and helped the guys and have taken care of them. Matter of fact, Melanie was on a job and a guy cut his hand and she had to run him to the emergency room. And so she was out there with him and she's like, okay, we need to address this problem, which was awesome because she was like passionate about it. Right. But Rachel's not afraid. She's built fence. She's literally walked in your moccasins, so to speak.
Sure.
Well, when I started working my salesman, there was sales guys already in place, and then I don't know what happened. It wasn't a good fit, and he left. And then Matt's like, "Hey, I need you to take over residential." I'm like, "Okay, all right, we can do this." Yeah. it's just learning a new skill set. I mean, just like Matt was saying earlier, or somebody else was saying, you don't necessarily have to bring somebody in who is an expert at something that they already know how to do. Bring somebody in who's passionate about, being a good steward and learning something new and having a work ethic.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I jumped. I mean, I went to school for education, and I worked for ministry with young children. And so Matt always says, "Aren't you glad you don't change diapers anymore?"
I saved her. I literally took her out of the poopy diaper and put her to dealing with fence guys.
So
not too far.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know how big of a leap that is, man. I really don't know.
Hey, and that's something else, when they asked me to come and come to kind of take over my salesman, I was in the mission field. I was doing ministry work, and I kind of just, what, I could probably do that, in just a little bit different capacity, even working with my salesmen. I can take care of people and, let them know that, hey, personally, I can be there for you too. So we've got, and I think that just is, again, not just our culture in our building, but kind of our culture, that resonates to who we come in contact with, who our customers are.
Exactly.
Well, and it obviously shows, right? So it made an impact on me when I met you at the first Fence Tech, and that you were so passionate about it, so fired up. And I'm like, well, it's a program, right? But she's passionate about this program. Like, I need to give this attention because it obviously means a lot, right? And I think so. When earlier today, we're talking about culture overall, and I think it's important to note that the culture always flows out, right? So you can fill up culture within, but then the culture always flows out, good or bad. It can go either way.
It can.
And so I think this is a testament to your organization, the culture you've built, is that Rachel is so passionate. I could see that culture just flowing out. I don't know where I was going with that, but compliment sense.
We'll take it. Yeah, that's awesome. And that's a little bit of our mission field, or what we're doing. I tell people all the time that you're going to work really, really hard, but hopefully you enjoy coming to work every day. And, there's stats out there that say that if you enjoy your job or what you're doing, you're going to be a better father, a better husband, you're going to be happier. And happiness is something we all strive for. Ultimately, they pulled all these wealthy people. I think Bill Gates was one of them. And they said, of all the things, was the money really worth it? And then they've all said, no, happiness is the end all be all. I mean, don't get me wrong. We have to have money to function, and we're all here. We're a for-profit. And I tell people all the time, it's not a dirty word. It's good. We want to be in the industry, especially people that come and get trained here. As I look around, all these people, we want you, everybody, we should be rooting for each other to succeed, because you are educated. You're doing what you can to be trained. You're taking those extra steps on your own. We should be cheering for each other to succeed.
Absolutely.
And so that's kind of a little breakaway that I do when we do have new customers, and they sign up with my salesman, and, we don't leave them willy-nilly, hey, nice. Good luck, guys. I do an online meeting with my customers. I make sure that they feel comfortable. I don't, we don't have to reinvent the wheel, just like this training. Hey, this, we've done it this way. We found it the best to work this way. So with my salesman customer, right, Jake? I just say what has worked for us, this is how we approach our customers. This is exactly what we say. Every one of us gals in the office and gentlemen who answer the phone with a customer, we have the exact same lines that we say. We direct all of our customers to use our My Salesman tool. But we also don't want, when somebody comes and calls, and we don't want them to think we're trying to push them off on technology. Sure. Hey, thanks you called. Go to our website. Get a quote. We're still taking that intake information. We're very customer and community driven. So we want to be very thankful that they called our phone.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, give them the warm and fuzzies. Hey, this is just a next step. If you guys can go to our website, click on our online quote button, it's going to give us more information so we can help provide better service to you. And it goes right into our program so we can know exactly what you're looking at here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and Matt kind of talked about that too, is that it provides my team with the necessary information to be of best assistance to you or best service to you. Is if I have to try to learn all the information on my own, I'm not 100% sure that we'll get there efficiently. Like we will get there. It might not be efficient, but who knows your property better than you do, the homeowner? And you know exactly what you have pictured in your mind as far as the fence. So it makes sense for you to draw it out just like you want it drawn.
One more thing too, they also know about how much money they can spend.
Bingo.
But they don't ever want to tell you that because they think you're going to cheat them and just spend that much money.
Yep.
But when they do our tool, they're telling us what they're willing to spend.
Well, and here's the thing too, Matt and Rachel. So one thing we've found is that, so when you say I want a 6-foot privacy fence, I want it installed with cedar pickets and steel posts, I say, okay, it'll be X amount of money.
Right.
Then the eyes get real big, deer in the headlight. They're like, well, thanks for coming out. I got to go. I'll talk to my wife. I'll let you know later.
Right.
I'll talk to my wife.
With the tool.
One-legged sale.
Yeah. With the tool, it gives them the opportunity to then, okay, well, so obviously that's not in my budget. Let me see what it looks like when I change the materials to pine.
Right.
Or if I take out the gate. It gives them the opportunity they know where their budget is, but it gives them an opportunity to modify that. Right. For whatever reason, in person, once the conversation's over, it's done. Right. There's no, well, how much would it be if I change this or that? Just over. Right. So that's one thing that we found on our end, is that we've seen people submit multiple based on materials and gates and that, and then they just let us know which one fits in their budget. Right. So
I agree.
I like the tool a lot. Let's talk about let's do a couple of things. So the My Salesman team right now is running a promotion in conjunction with the AFA. Is that right?
So, this is Fence Tech Week, what should have been Fence Tech Week. We're all kind of sad about that. And so what I thought would be a great idea was, why it's Fence Tech Week. Let's kind of keep that same mindset. And, a lot of the AFA things end with small groups like this. You've got your chapter meetings and that kind of thing. And at Fence Tech, you're going to have the different classes and the different education. So you know what? Let's try to get more people involved in that and get more education going. Why don't we? If you're a new My Salesman customer this week during what would have been Fence Tech, My Salesman's going to pay for your first year membership for the AFA. And we thought that was a win-win for the contractor, the AFA, and My Salesman. So we could just kind of get the ball rolling.
In the industry. Right. I'm passionate about the AFA. I really am. Because the AFA's mission is to build a better industry.
Absolutely.
Through education, through
standards,
hands-on, through standards and accreditation. That's right.
Yep.
That's their mission is to leave the industry better than they found it. Right?
Yeah, I will tell you, I am. I was a part of the AFA, what I call BT before Tony.
Okay, yeah.
And I really didn't feel like I was getting my value. I'm telling you what, Tony Thornton has done something as an executive director and a great board that they have had. They've had some great presidents. They've really put the right people in leadership. I think the AFA is really kicking butt. I mean, they know that we want to set a standard. We don't want these willy-nilly, in the words of Rachel, fences.
2 men in a truck.
I mean, and if there is 2 men in a truck, we want them to be educated on the right standards and processes because we don't want the industry to have a bad name. Well, we want our competition to be good. Yes.
Well, that's the thing. So in my local market, and this news kind of rolled out onto the national scene. So we had and we'll use maybe your air quotes, fencing contractor.
Those mean not really.
Yeah, we'll use them. They probably apply. He came into the fencing market, and he kind of made a splash. He did a lot of marketing. Like, he tried to do things right. The problem is he didn't have his business sense really figured out. And so what ended up happening is after 3 or 4 years, he fell into the trap of robbing Peter to pay Paul. He started taking a lot of deposits.
Yep.
Either starting a project and not finishing it, or just not starting the project at all, and then left with the deposits. So what was in the news last weekend is the Missouri Attorney General has taken an interest in it.
Yep.
So bad news bears for that. I mean, good for the clients, obviously.
But the AFA is trying to fix that part of it by not only teaching you how to build a fence, but teaching you to understand overhead, understand cost, understand of how important it is to stay up on your bookkeeping, have a good insurance, that's what the AFA is doing now. And that's why we thought, well, let's partner with them a little bit. We're going to pay for the first year. So if you sign up, you get 30 days free, but then you also get the value of, we pay for your AFA membership. So we thought that's trying to make our industry better by helping people out. And a lot of times people don't join the AFA is because when you're first getting started, every penny counts.
That's right.
Man, it's tight. I was talking to a guy here outside. He goes, I'm literally standing on my own, $125 a month. I don't know if I can do that. Easy. Don't get so angry.
I'm a fence guy, not a full-time YouTuber. I haven't said that yet this episode, so we'll go ahead and get that out of the way.
So Joe's just throwing things around.
What do you know?
But, I really think that this will maybe help people come on to the AFA. And we're big fans of the AFA, big fans of Tony Thornton, big fans of the board is doing a great job.
Well, and then I think it just will, also make people aware, I guess I thought about being the AFA, but if you're going to offer this, hey, might as well take it. And then you're just maybe you're going to go and, get the newsletter and see that, there's a business training school. I think it's in April. Right. And then there's the FIS training in Ohio in April as well. Yeah. And then the FIS that the Midwest chapter is doing is at our facility in June.
In June.
So there's things that are coming up for education and hands-on training. Just, some of the things that we've done here today.
But you have to commit to go. You have to make commitments to be a part of something bigger than yourself. You have to go and apply yourself and go to the meetings and visit with the other people in your chapter. You have to make an effort. My salesman is not going to work for you if you don't put it on your website and you don't drive people there and you don't tell people about it, because nobody knows there's a drawing tool out there that I can get a budget number on a fence.
Yeah.
AFA is not going to work for you if you don't participate.
Well, yeah. So I interviewed Tony. It's been probably a couple months ago now. And that was one of the big takeaways that he had left everyone with is you will get out of it what you put into it. Yep. I promise. Either way. Right. You can't simply send in your check and your registration and then spend the year not participating in the AFA and then next year go, well, what have you guys done for me lately?
Right.
Well, no, it's like anything. You get out of it what you put into it.
It's like getting a gym membership.
I have a gym membership.
How did you know?
Yeah, look at this. Do you have a gym membership?
I do. And obviously,
I'm not applying
case in point,
myself.
you get out what you put in, for sure.
Dang it, Rachel. Stop it.
I know. Why'd you have to go there?
I think she's basically calling us fat, Joe. I mean, it's sort of. Basically, she's saying you boys could go to the gym.
She said it without saying it. That's just how that went. No, I like what you guys are doing because, one, you guys are having an impact on the fencing community, and then you're partnering with another, industry peer that is also helping to try better the industry.
Right.
And Joe and I are both board of director members for the Midwest chapter AFA. So we're going to have a good time up there in June. It's going to be a lot of fun and a lot of good education and just the whole table talk and.
Yeah,
having the experts come in and
the reason I joined the board was so I talked to Dan Hardy, and you want to talk about somebody passionate about fence. Dan's passionate about helping people with fence.
He's fairly new in the industry.
He is. He's new in the industry, but he's I don't know, how would you even describe it? He's passionate. He is just passionate about building a business and about bettering the industry.
Yeah.
And so he and I had a conversation about his ideas on what our local chapter AFA could do to help other contractors, help better the industry and that sort of thing. And then at the end of it, I was like, Dan, I don't know what we're talking about, but I'm on board. Like, I am in. He's like, well, actually, I was going to talk to you and see about if you'd be willing to consider coming onto the board. I already told you, Dan, I'm in. I will follow you to wherever you decide to go. No, because that's the thing. And then after I met with more of the board members, I realized everyone has that mindset that we're here to try to better the fencing industry, right? Like, that's one of the missions of this channel is to try to help better the fencing industry. And we help DIY folks out with their fences as well. but yeah, I mean, so it's interesting what you can get accomplished when you get a group of like-minded individuals in the same room. Exactly. And I'm super excited to see what happens with the Midwest AFA and AFA in general. I don't mean to minimize just say us, but I think the industry is going in a really good direction, especially with Tony at the helm. Like, again, talking about passionate fence guys, Tony Thornton is fiery passion.
And Barry Baker.
And yeah.
Baker Fence, Wichita, Kansas.
Yeah.
By the way, Baker Fence was customer number 1 on my salesman.
Really?
Yep. And he's basically runs one crew, and him and his wife.
Yeah. Very cool.
Customer number 1.
So we talked about what My Salesman's doing now. Rachel, do you want to share? So My Salesman has some new features out.
We do have some new features out. Actually, one was just kicked out a couple days ago. So when a customer goes through your website, clicks on that link, puts in all their information, draws their fence, yada, 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 they're going to get an email notification that's branded for your fence company. Contractor's going to get that same email. Mm-hmm. Now, it still is. There's a button on that email that Joe receives and that Matt receives and myself through the fence companies. I have the ability to click on a button, say I visit with that customer on the phone, and maybe they had you know what, I just decided I'd kind of like to see an aluminum fence price. Hey, with a click of a button, I'm going to click on that, boom, and get you an aluminum price, and that's going to spit out another email.
You can edit it with about 2 or 3 clicks.
Yep. So now that used to be just through the email. Mm-hmm. Now in your reports page, when you click on the customer's name, you can do it directly out of the reports page. You don't have to search for an email anywhere.
Just released that.
That was just this week.
Very nice. Very nice.
And then, of course, we have a couple of weeks before that, right after Christmas time, we got the fence removal button.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
If you were, there's a button at the end when the customer gets their budget, it says existing fence removal. They're able to click on that, put in their total linear foot need removed, and they're going to have that added to their budget. They could see what that is, so they could remove it, and they could toggle back and forth.
I like that. So the way ours is currently configured, or was configured prior to that, was we had an option for like wood fence with removal.
You have a custom catalog.
Right. But they can't see what the removal portion of that is.
Right.
So with this, they can actually see a line item for the removal cost. Yep. And they can decide whether they want to remove it themselves or if it makes sense to have us remove it.
Correct.
I like that.
So those are the 2 newest features. And, some people may not be utilizing their notes section in their reports pages. So they're going to get these reports. Every single customer that goes through, you're going to get an email for it. Then you're going to have a lead management page, which is called My Reports. You can be able to look at that job anytime, pull up the printable map. Now you can, from the reports page, make edits directly to their, that fence style, and you can add notes.
Okay.
So there you could,
So if somebody wants you to come see them in the fall and it's springtime, you can put that note, talk to the customer, go visit them in the fall, and then that stays in your notes, so it's there. So it's just another. It's not a CRM, but it kind of is a CRM. Yeah, it helps you manage your customer a little bit,
and just a little bit. Hey, and it's cool because when there's a note attached, it turns orange just to give you an indication. That there's a note in the box.
We used orange for you.
I like that. I like that a lot. So at a glance, you can just look at it and know there's a note here, and I need to see what that note's about.
And maybe I got an email notification. I got a $12,000 job. Maybe I try to call that customer back right away, and I got a voicemail. Well, I'm going to stick, hey, I called this customer 1212 of 02, got a voicemail, just so I know I make contacts, and I can keep a log of that just within my reports page.
Yeah, no one's ever regretted having too much information.
No. Right. And I think just the whole program, how it's set up, it's all about information. And I work with a lot of contractors from coast to coast in Canada and now in Australia. And I kind of hear there's a lot of similarities and problems and issues. And even talking to our own fence customers, you hear, hey, you answered your phone, or you got we got a budget number from you right away.
Yep.
Gosh, I called like 10 people and you're the only ones who communicated. Well, they go through the link, they're going to get that budget information and all of our company information, our emails, our website, our, Matt's email, our residential fence manager. They could email each one of those. There's a picture of our fence guys that pop up. So when they do end up making that appointment, they see a friendly face. Oh, I know this person's supposed to be at my house.
I like that. And I'm glad you brought that up because so we talked about when I was talking earlier, I did the majority of the marketing for Ozark Fence for quite a while. And a question we'd get a lot is, where's Joe? Well, now with the quote tool, we have Sarah's picture up there. And so that way they can see, oh, okay, Sarah, here's a picture. Here's her contact information if I want to reach out to her directly. I like that feature a lot. That way they know who to expect is going to be reaching out. They can put a face with a voice. They get over the phone.
Right, absolutely. And it's a safety feature.
Sure. Yeah.
It's like, hey, I'm waiting at home for the plumber, or hey, I'm waiting at home for the fencer.
Yep.
I've seen too many CSIs to be questioning, is that really the fencer? Well, I know Joe. Joe is all.
Yeah, you got a guy wearing all orange, driving an orange truck with an orange wedding ring. There's a good chance that's me. There's a really good chance. So now we're at Staining University.
Yes.
Is there a staining aspect to the fencing quote tool?
We do. So we have a My Salesman catalog that's full of fence, but we also have the option to do a custom catalog, and you can brand that all stain if you'd like. And if you go to Empire Netting, or if you go to empire-fence.com, and those out there listening, if they want to even try it, just go to empire-fence.com.
Let me do this. I will drop it in. Let me make sure I get this right. So empire-fence.com. Like that?
That's ours. Fence and staining company. Yep.
Yes. So we have two links on our website. So we're going to be able to pay.
And for the record, Rachel charges Empire for both links, and I do pay. You would think I'd get a deal.
Yeah, right.
I still have to pay.
Full price.
Full price. Not even fair.
Well, wait a minute. My salesman is paying for an office space that.
I do charge her back for an office space for her to sit at. So I guess she has one.
So it might be a net neutral maybe or something like that.
My salesman has an office space in Houston, Texas, just FYI.
Yeah.
So anyway,
good to know.
Well, we're all over the country, right? So, I digress. I kind of forgot where I was.
Well, so you can put the stain on there, and you can do staining. Okay. And we are coming out with a deck feature that you'll eventually be able to. It'll measure square footage of the deck, and you'll be able to give a budget number for the stain. But that's coming. It's not here yet. We're working on it.
It's in the pipeline.
One thing I've learned is it's hard to get everything tested. I was telling you earlier, we're on like 3 different servers, and we test on one, and if something goes wrong, we have to get that fixed before we make a release to all 3 of them. And there's just, I will tell you, the fence industry is tough, but so is the technology industry, and it's tough to stay on top of it.
I bet.
It's really a don't
we do our best. Generally, if there's any kind of issue, I don't want to say it's the contractor's fault, but it's usually like user error or something.
Yeah.
There's a simple solution what's going on, but there is like I think it was last month, all of a sudden our website went down, or like
everything crashed.
It was Amazon's problem.
Yeah, Amazon.
No. I mean,
Amazon had a huge problem on all their servers, and it was completely their fault.
Sure.
But we were stuck. We couldn't do anything. I mean, what do you do? That's part of the problem with technology is things do act up. But I mean, I had my iPhone was acting up. It was kept going black all the time. I mean, it's technology. As a society, we've become this. I want it now. I want it quick, and it has to be perfect. Well. We try really hard. We don't have too many crashes, but we have a few.
Yeah.
No, I mean, my experience with ours has been nothing but great. We haven't. If you hadn't told me about that, I wouldn't have known that had happened.
Good.
So there you go.
Okay, so we did kind of jump off deep in there. Going back to empire-fence.com.
Yeah.
If you go there, we've created a button for the fencing and a separate link for the staining. So if you go click on the staining, you'll see, it's set up just a little bit differently.
Sure.
So they'll have the option of like a what kind
It
of
has
stain
what
they
we
want
offer.
and
Sure.
what we offer.
Yeah, we could add more to it, but it's what we offer.
Right.
And just so everyone kind of knows what's the availability out there, if you have a quote tool now and you'd like to add staining to it, you can add custom options to your existing. Is that right?
You have to have a separate link.
You have to.
Okay.
Yeah, it's right now, but
There's a template for staining, just on our regular. I just don't recommend that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Keep it
So it's
simple.
cleaner to have a separate
Yeah.
one. Okay.
Just,
Okay, good to know.
kind of what we did with you, Joe. Is this a fresh build and a stain, or
Yeah.
is it like a new install? But
Sure.
this fence is, it's kind of confusing, and for that one-time user,
Yeah.
that one-off, you want to make it as simple as possible.
And that's a good point because we're talking about customers that have not ever used a quote tool coming in and having that first time user experience. I say that, but now that I've become a very big proponent of my salesman and all of my competitors see that we use it a lot, well, what do you know? Everybody's got it now. So it might not be the first time they've been on ours, but maybe not the first time they've been on it.
Right.
Which I think speaks volumes for you guys is that it's a tool that's intuitively easy to use, both from the client and the contractor. It just makes so much sense on so many levels. It's easy to use. It gets you all the information, all the pertinent information you would need to use to put a bid together, and obviously timely for the current environment that we're living in.
Oh, absolutely. It's so funny because, again, Fence Tech is kind of a big deal for my salesmen. It's kind of a great time to actually get in front of our customers and just visit with them. Hey, how's it going? What kind of year did you have? If I hadn't already talked to them on the phone or whatnot. Yeah. So it's a good meetup point for our current customers. And then we'll get some new ones.
Sure.
And Fence Tech 2020 just wasn't, that was right when COVID came out. In fact, we just got home and then the school shut down.
Yep.
But all of a sudden, people realized they needed our tool.
yeah,
Right.
we had a great year.
We had an amazing year, not only with my salesmen, because we were helping our contractors stay on point, get the customer information, let the customer have the warm and fuzzies. Hey, we can help you without
the face-to-face contact.
Right.
We did, Tony called up Matt, said, hey, how are things going? Matt's like, we haven't skipped a beat. And he's like, well, let's do a webinar. What are you doing differently, to keep you moving through COVID? And we're like, well, we're not doing anything differently. We're using my
It actually worked pretty slick because we would just tell people, go to the drawing tool, tell us where you want the fence. We'll come out and verify the measurement, but we do not want you to come out of the house because the last thing we wanted was anybody to get sick from us or to bother somebody or just wanted to keep our distance. We would go out, measure it, and then we'd work up a quote from back at the office and then either do a Zoom or go to meeting with them and do a little consultation. And we kept selling fence and then we just kept our distance. And it was nice because they could give us an idea where they wanted the fence without us having to go out and do it. And then we just go verify the measurements. It was really simple.
Absolutely.
It worked it was a real blessing. Like I said, when we first started in 2012, I didn't think we were going to make it. And then this happens. And I'm like, holy cow, I'm glad we're here for our friends in the industry that needed it.
Well, that's a real question is the what if you had taken it out of the market and then this had happened?
Yeah.
We'd kind of be stuck. Because as fencing contractors and different companies run different numbers, but a lot of companies will run 4, 5, 6 appointments a day, meeting with 4, 5, 6 different people every day, 5 days a week. My
wife just texted me.
Oh no.
Ouch. I think Melanie's mad at me. Honey, I still love you a bunch. I'm sorry. I am in big trouble.
Well, you heard it here first.
You see that?
But
ouch.
I saw it.
Yikes.
But you did say that she looks great today.
She does, honey.
She does.
You always look
and
good.
The pizzas are phenomenal.
They are. The green bean.
I love
green
casserole.
casserole. I love it.
That's right.
Matter of fact, Saturday night, we're having it. That's what we're having Saturday night when I get home.
That's right. Welcome home, green bean casserole.
Yikes.
I'm so sorry.
But what a great compliment to her mother.
Phenomenal.
Because she's such a good cook.
That's right. That's right.
Really, I was embracing the family.
That's right. And I appreciate you sharing the story so that we could then relate it to
the business.
Exactly what we were talking about. Right. That's right. That's right.
We don't want our guys not learning how to make green bean casserole.
Right. That's the thing. Is if I had nothing but fence guys that made green bean casserole, right, what would we be doing?
Hey, Joe, in your new building,
yeah.
I think you have a specific room you could do that.
We do have a kitchen.
About 10. You got so many rooms, and you like
it's like a bit of a mess. So within our new building, and we'll be taking you guys through a tour of it in an upcoming video. But it was built. Both structures were built sometime in the 50s. There was a barn and then a house, and over time, people were built. They built hallways, and there's another little office built and a conference room. Right, and now it's like all one. Well, so the YouTube studio that we'll be broadcasting from is what was the hayloft. And then down below in what was the milking parlor is now like a bunch of workshops and stuff. And in
your staining, like, is that going to be your stain? Or no, your lattice where you're going to
we're gonna make lattice out of our cedar coals, which I am completely excited about. But yeah, so we also have a conference room and a kitchen. And because the guy that had it before us actually lived out of it, so it's set up to be a full livable space, but
double showers.
It has a very impressive shower in it that I have no idea what a shower is doing in a YouTube studio. So we'll probably be ripping that out. But we could, to your point, we could make some pretty amazing green bean casserole there in the kitchen.
I think you could.
So Joe, I have a question for you.
You bet.
Why orange?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. So
I mean, literally, look, it's the core. Even the computer screen is orange. Your ring is literally orange. Your watch is orange.
Watch is orange. Your cell phone cover.
Why?
It's a whole thing.
Orange.
So it's a bit of a funny story.
I know.
So it started off in the very beginning. It started off that our guys didn't like wearing safety vests. So one day we got a stern talking to about your guys not wearing safety vests because the site superintendent had come around. They got told to put on the safety vest. They're like, oh, they're in the truck. Well, put them on. I'm like, oh, yeah. So they put them on, and then the superintendent goes around the corner, peeks back, and then what do you know? They're taking the things off.
Yep.
So they got sent back to the shop. And so that's kind of weird. So they came back, and Dad's like, well, what are you guys doing back? Oh, well, they said they weren't ready for us today. They said, we'll have to come back another day. Dad's like, well, I know that's not true because he was screaming at me yesterday that we had to get this done today. I don't know, weirdest thing. So then, I don't know what the thought there was. So then my dad just picks up the telephone. Hey, Tony, my guys are back. Why are my guys back? Well, you need to tell your guys they need to learn to wear their safety vest because, that could be a pretty big violation. So that happened, and then there had always been issues with safety vests. So I said, you know what? Company shirts, orange. Going to be high visibility colors. Right. Now, and so those are fence shirts that our production guys wear are high vis. If the commercial guys that work near road are the 03, they're the reflective and all that. Right. But at that point, so our guys were wearing orange. You about ready? Okay. So my guys were wearing orange, but me and my dad were wearing blue and gold. So I'm like, that's kind of a disconnect. We're talking about culture. Like that's a cultural disconnect that we're all one team. We should all be wearing the same. So then I said, you know what? We're wearing orange. And then, so a buddy of mine does plumbing and HVAC in Springfield, and his dad had color branded them yellow. And so they drove yellow trucks. Yeah. So I was like, if we're going to do this,
let's go all in.
It's all or nothing, right?
Let's burn the boat.
Burn the boat. Bingo. And we did. And we went all in. And I took it. I'll be the first to say I took it a little too far. And now I do not have purchasing responsibilities at the household.
I bet.
And I'll tell a story about that. So my wife, we live in a neighborhood that has an HOA, and they have a requirement that you have to have one tree in the front yard and it has to be 6 feet tall and on and on and on. Okay. Tree died. We bought the house, tree died. All right. Well, She goes, hey, do you know anybody that does? Now, at this point, I'm not allowed to make like interior house purchases. Okay. She goes, can you buy a tree? You bet. I know a guy that does trees. Called him up. And I said, hey, I need a tree. Here's the requirements for the tree. He goes, okay. What color do you want it to turn in the fall? That's a very good question. Is blaze orange an option? It is an option. Nice. So there's what is it? It's an October Glory. It's a maple, and it thing turns fiery orange in the fall. And you better believe. So we did this in the spring. So all summer I'm just thinking about it. It's a beautiful green tree, and wife loves it and all that. That fall, you better believe. I turned the corner, I look, not yet. Drove home. Next day, turned the corner, not yet. One glorious day, and it was like overnight. I turned the corner, I looked down the street, orange.
Nice.
I walk in the house. First thing that gets said, the tree? The tree in front of our house that everyone in this neighborhood drives by. I think they think it's hilarious. I think all the neighbors get it. They understand. And that was the day that all my purchasing privileges were revoked.
You literally lost them all.
I lost everything. It's like if I want to purchase something, it basically goes in the like wish list on Amazon, and then she approves it.
Nice, good. Well,
it's not all bad.
How did you come out of that? I mean, is she still upset about it, or I'm trying to figure out what to do with this cooking thing? This is bothering me now.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm in big trouble.
We're a couple years in yet, and I'm still not allowed to buy anything.
Okay, so it's going to take me at least 24 months.
At least, okay. I think on the outside, yeah. Lots of like, I'm sorry's. Do not laugh about it.
So we have a
lesson learned? Don't laugh hysterically about it.
Do we have a Q&A we're supposed to do?
Yeah. So we're an hour in. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring Caleb in.
Good.
And yeah. You say hey, you like can't run out of here fast enough.
No, I'm just ready to get on to the next thing. This is my ants in the pants problem I have. Yeah. We've been here for an hour. That's good. I don't want to wear anybody out.
Sure.
You're doing a great job. I'm proud of you, Joe. You're a good egg, and you're good for our industry. So thank you for everything you're doing.
Appreciate that.
Thank you for this channel. I think this is a great way to look at
it. Well, going out, let's do this. So we have one. I want to read a comment. So JJ says, great tool we've been using here at Veterans Fence in Northeast Ohio for a few months. Even during the off season, it's been worth the investment. Can't wait to use it throughout the upcoming season.
Oh, thank you very much. That's awesome.
I think this embodies like basically all the feedback I've heard from other people that have used it. They said, hey, this thing is, I mean, it's a value. It's underpriced for the value. And
thank you.
It speaks volumes that even in the off season, I mean, that's a real worry for fence guys, right? It is. What do you do? I mean, for the last 2 weeks, we were shut down.
Yeah.
Snow and ice and all the rest. So, yeah.
It works all year long, and it's working even when you're not. So.
Right.
Very good. Caleb, are you in next, or what's the?
Yep.
What am I doing?
We sort of talked about maybe doing a Q&A for everybody here.
Yeah. So what we're going to do is what we'll probably do is just bring Caleb down here, and we'll do Q&A from the crowd. But that way, the audience will reiterate the questions. That way, the audience can kind of be participating in it, so that those that couldn't come to university can still ask questions. How's that sound?
So if you can't hear, we're going to do Q&A. If anybody's got questions about anything, fencing, staining, power wash, whatever, take questions, and we're going to answer them on Joe's YouTube channel. So.
Am I free to go?
Matt, thank you.
All right, thanks.
I appreciate you so much. Rachel, thank you very much.
There may be some.
So guys,
we'll see Rachel. Spend some time with her.
We'll be bringing Caleb on now, so we'll be answering your guys' questions, both your guys here on the channel and out in the crowd. So for those of you just joining, we're live at Stain and Seal University 2021 with the man. Can we call you a stain expert?
Call me.
I tell you that privately all the time, but we need to talk about this publicly. When are you going to create a channel that is Caleb Roth, the stain expert?
I was going to say you call me anything you want, right?
Well, I'm telling you, we need to get on this. We need to get on this because here's the thing. Let me tell you my stain and seal expert story. Okay. And then because I feel like this story, I feel like I'm probably not the only person that has this story. So I have a fence company. We've been talking about doing staining and sealing, and I'm really on the fence about it, right? Like I don't know, are we going to do it or are we not? We got to buy equipment. It's a whole thing. I had tested or just messed around with other brands. The problem is I didn't feel super good about the smell, about potentially like there were some issues, and we'll just say that. And so I wasn't super sold on it. I don't know who invited me to your Facebook group, but somebody did. And from then on, I'm like, who is this Caleb guy? He's doing videos. He's in the group. He's helping these guys and gals out figure out staining. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to ask a few questions and hope the staining community can kind of help me through these. Well, Caleb like jumps right into it. He's like, I got you. I will help you with all your questions. Call me. I will call you back. I'll video call. Like, I have to do it at this point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you did, and you helped me through the whole thing. Like, what machines do I buy? Which is really what today was about, right? Has been about is you did a great 101, do we say training? A 101 series this morning.
Yeah, we want you to see from a 30,000 foot view what it looks like. And today's a lot of concepts. Tomorrow going to be a lot more practical application.
Nice. But that's basically what you did with me is you ran me through the 101 of stain, right? Here are the materials available. And here's what really kind of caught my attention. You're like, hey, here's the stains that are available. You of course said yours, but you're such a humble guy. You're like, and also if you don't want to use us, that's totally fine. You can use this one and this one and this one. Caleb, I've tried some of those. I'm not a huge fan. I want to talk to you about yours. And you're like, okay, well, all right, so let's talk about it. And so we video chat and we get into it. And I buy some equipment. You're like, I want you to video chat me on your first job so I can like help you through this. And for me, it was so impactful because you're so incredibly passionate about the staining and sealing industry as a whole. And I think that flows through. We're talking to Matt and Rachel earlier about their passions. And I really feel like if you've got a good culture, your passion flows from everyone in it. That's my stain and seal expert. You had sold me single-handedly on stain and seal experts just because of your passion. And you legitimately want to help every single person in the room. Right. And I think, I don't know if I'd say if it's rare, but you don't see that often where you'll have someone in the industry that wants to help every single person. You'll have them say, well, I really want to have an impact and I want to bring value and I want to talk to the room. I really feel like you want to talk to each and every person and make sure that each and every person here gets impacted.
Sure.
That sold me on you. That's my stain and seal expert story.
Well, that's a lot of people's story. I'm the guy who FaceTimes you to teach you how to stain a fence. That happens.
Right.
And
that's right.
If you remember, I remember that job. I told I was telling you what to do, and your guy was spraying, and you would interrupt him about every 30 seconds. I said, Joe, let him spray a whole panel, and then ask him to look at it.
Yep.
And then when you stopped that, it started getting better.
He
saw his own mistakes and fixed it. So, but yeah, we do that. That's a lot of fun, and I'll do it for any of you guys. If you get on a stain job, I'll be glad to FaceTime you through the phone. I told one guy that though, and he got offended.
Really?
You won't even come out here?
Oh,
I was like, well, I will, but right now,
on-site support.
If you want to do it right now, we can do it right now on the phone.
That's awesome. So, guys, what we're going to do is we're going to open up Q&A to those here in the room and those here in the chat. What I might do is ask a few of the questions in the chat first because there's some questions that have been here for a little while, and I knew we were going to do this, so I wanted to save them for you. So, Merlin 444 asks, I assume stain lasts longer than paint. How do they compare?
Generally, paint can last longer than a penetrating stain if we're in a perfect world. If we're indoors, stain and paint both last forever. When we get out in the sun and the environment where there's UV stuff, where we're working, us fence guys and deck guys, we're outdoors. And can y'all hear me okay? So when you're outdoors, you've got this thing called weather, the sun, the rain, and the temperature and the fluctuation and all those things. And paints tend to, some paints are okay with being flexible, but when the wood moves and things like that, a lot of coatings, water-based coatings, delaminate and we see failures. And then our maintenance, when we have to go back, we've got higher maintenance. So what happens is the stain, a water-based stain or water-based paint, it might last 25 years in a perfect world, but the wood's constantly moving and it creates a delamination process and maybe a split tear, the stain coating tears or rips, and now water's getting in and it's not sticking anymore. And the stain really maybe didn't fail, but it did. It failed. So with the penetrating, like an oil-based stain, that doesn't happen. It goes down into the wood. It's kind of like it's in the wood, not on the wood. And it's a conditioner, maybe like a shoe conditioner. It goes down in the wood, makes things look nice, and that's maybe. Does that answer the question?
Yeah. So this is kind of the example I use, and please correct me if I lead anybody astray here. But and I probably actually got this from you, so I'm probably just parroting this back to you about when you oil a boot, right? So if you got leather boots, you oil it so you prevent damage ultimately from water and UV and all that. So it moisturizes the leather, it penetrates, it seals it, but it does it thoroughly through the product. If you were to take a boot and just put polish on it, it'll still look nice, but it doesn't penetrate the boot. It doesn't moisturize. It doesn't help, just nurture the leather. It doesn't nurture the boot. It looks nice, but it's a surface coating rather than a penetrating coating. So if you have a polish, you'll likely have to reapply the polish. It's not going to look great long term. Is that about right?
Yeah, you can look at it like that for sure.
Okay. There you go. So assuming stain lasts longer than paint. So really it's going to depend on the product used, and probably it really depends on preparation. Is that right?
Well, I think it really comes down to we're looking at the wrong thing. We need to be looking at maintenance, long-term maintenance. If you're, and I'm looking off camera for those on screen here to know, because I'm actually talking to a crowd. I'm going to talk to you guys. So if you're using, maintenance, we talked about that outside. Maintenance is what's most important. You don't want to have something that's peeling, cracking, and chipping. You don't want to maintain that, and you don't want to warranty it either, because what happens, you stain a deck and a year and a half later it peels and it cracks and chips. There's two things you can do. You can ignore the phone call and feel like a loser, or you can go take care of the problem and eat it, right? Well, let's just not go down that road. Let's take that out of the equation and do a stain that goes down into the wood, and we're staining the wood. A water-based stain that sits on top of film former, is it really staining the wood? Is it a stain layer of clear coat on top of the wood? So that's the difference. Does it last longer? I would say oil-based penetrating stains can last indefinitely when maintenance is kept up. The cool thing about oil-based stains are they just fade away. You oil it, and it eventually fades away over, depending on the product, 3 to 5 years, 6 years sometimes. Where a water-based coating in a perfect world, it might last for 10 years or 20 years. But if you get a tear in it, if something happens, if wood shrinks and contracts, that's where we get the issue. So for contractors, maintenance is a lot easier on a day-to-day basis. Installation, application is easier. And for a homeowner, most homeowners forget about it. You don't wash your truck when your truck doesn't need washing. You don't stain your deck when your deck doesn't need staining. So what usually happens is they stain their deck the first time, looks great, and the next thing you know, in 15 minutes, 5 years have gone by, and the deck's peeling, and you go, crap, what do I got to do? You got to peel and strip it. If you wait too long with the penetrating stain, you just restain it anyways.
Sure.
You don't have to go through that sanding, stripping, power washing, the heavy-duty work stage. So for a contractor or a homeowner, it's easier.
Yeah, it's a maintenance code in comparison to just a complete stripping and restaining.
Yeah, the time lasts longer. We're looking at the wrong metric.
There you go.
The metric we need to look at is maintenance and ease of ownership and cost of ownership. It's a lot cheaper to own that oil-based stain.
Very good. Well, Merlin 44, there you go. There's your answer. As you guys are watching, if you've got questions, leave them in the comments below. For now, we're going to open questions up to the audience here.
Who's got a question?
So in my area, a lot of people build time fences, and literally no one follows up with any kind of paint or stain. So I know the benefits of it, but explain it to me like you were explaining it to a homeowner that has no idea. So that I convince them,
Sure.
to go the extra mile for it.
So basically, it has an undeveloped market.
Yeah, so you have a market right now that has treated pine in the market, but the market hasn't really accepted the staining of the treated pine. How would you address that? Marketing. Like I'm just a guy that likes marketing. So you could do a video in front of an unstained treated pine fence, one that's gone gray, and say, guys, this isn't normal. I know you see it a lot. I know you see it every day. It's not normal. I'd really like to talk to you about staining the fence. Whether it's me or someone else, you need to get this fence stained.
I tell them one thing, because it looks good.
Yeah.
Most people know they need to stain the wood. You already know. Before you came, you knew you needed to stain it. You know that you probably need to wash it. Everybody knows. It's It's just like personal development. You know that if you get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and go to the gym every day and you eat, broccoli and chicken breast, you're going to start looking like, a bodybuilder or a CrossFit athlete before long. You all know that that's possible for everybody in this room, right? But do you want to do it? So everybody generally knows that they've got to clean their fence. They know they need to stain it. They know they need to seal it. They know they need to change the oil in their car, and they know they need to mow the grass. But the main reason we wash our car isn't to protect the paint job and all this thing. It's because it looks good. When you pull up, you want your truck to look nice. Same thing with the fence. That's the number one reason. Let's just get down to what people are really making decisions based on. And a lot of times it's because they want to look good. They want things to look nice. And that's the thing that I go, because that's an emotional thing. You want it to look good. I know nobody in the neighborhood does theirs, but it looks like crap. Don't you want to have the nicest looking house on the street? And then I can say, plus there's the benefit, back to working out or whatever, getting up in the morning. You don't sell them on getting up early. You sell them on, you could look like this in 120 days. Your fence can look like this. And then we talk about what's it going to take to make that happen. And the first thing I would do is completely flush down the toilet everything you've got in your mind about they don't do this, they don't do that. When I started here in Nashville, nobody stained anything. I went to Dallas, Texas, and I said, oh my God, every fence down here is stained. Nobody stains at home. How am I going to make this happen? And now in Nashville, we've got a stain market that's probably on average one of the highest. We probably charge on the upper end of what people charge, and we've got a pretty good market, and it's probably developed 20%. I think we could develop it another 80% and everybody still be fat and happy about it. There's plenty of the market's still there. So I think you just forget about that nobody else stains. When you talk to your customer and they say, well, nobody else is doing it, you just act like they're crazy. What are you talking about? Look, the whole world stains their wood. That's what I would do. I would just, if it's the right thing to do it.
And I usually hit on the fact that, a fence is an investment. No two ways about it, especially in the current pricing that we're looking at in wood. Like, a fence is a substantial investment.
Yep.
Why wouldn't you take an additional step to make sure you, protect the investment, and to your point, make that investment look like $1 million 3 years from now? Because I guarantee you, with the treated pine fence, if you do nothing and let it go, that fence is not going to look incredible in 3 years. I promise. So I usually address it from that point, is I'm a big fan of saying, like, whether I do it or anybody else does it, it needs done. Because that's the reality. Now, I completely understand we'd love to be the ones to do it, but that goes without saying, right? So I think it's my thing's video, guys. I talk to you guys about it. I talk to you guys on YouTube all the time about it. I'm a big fan of video because you can convey so much more information than you can with a picture and with written word. I think it's a video. I think it's a video in front of a great fence. And people interact, and people will pay attention to educational content and funny content. So if you can think of a way that is true to you, that is natural for you to say, that is funny and educational, you're off to the races. You really are. So I would probably sit and think about, how can you make it witty or funny? And I don't know.
Yeah, I'll touch on that again a little bit. So another reason that's happening is because everybody's thinking, well, nobody's doing it. And probably nobody's quoting it. If you start quoting it on every single job, so what happened here in Nashville is I was in the fence business. Y'all heard my story. And I got into staining, and I created another company on the side. And I still worked for the family fence business, but I had my staining business. And I see those Ozark fence stain tags. I'm going to get one of those. But I started my side business, and I just called everybody. But what I noticed was, because in our family business, we quoted staining on everything. And before long, I noticed the other fence company down the road, they're quoting staining. They don't even have a stain contractor. They have no intention of staining the fence. But man, that guy's quoting staining. I better quote it too. And if somebody, we'll just quote it high. So I would go with that reason. But and to build that, once you get your first couple of customers, you want to touch the emotional response. If you can get a customer, our best advertising is when we stain a fence job for someone and you walk outside and the lady goes, oh my God, I didn't have the money to build a new fence. I got a price for it and I could not afford it. My old fence looks better than a new one would have because they restored it. And we've got videos of women coming outside and just almost coming into tears. and capture that moment. If they're willing, and don't direct them. Don't tell them what to say. Just say, hey, would you take a moment and say a few words just about the experience with Staying So Experts? And we've got videos of people, ladies doing that very thing, talking about how they couldn't afford a new fence. I'd never thought my old fence could look this good. I didn't even know you could do it. Now look at it, and it's in the backyard, and she's happy, and she's holding her checkbook in her hand because she's going to pay us, and thank you. And then I've got other guys. My favorite video, I found another customer to do the same thing. And this guy was like, he had like a Pantera death metal shirt on. He had like a mullet, long hair, tattoos all over the place. And believe it or not, he was like an astrophysicist at DuPont in Nashville. He was some super nerdy thing, but he was like a death metal guy. And I asked him, hey, would you give us a promo or a little testimonial? And he just said, yeah, man, I'd love to say a few words. And we filmed him, and he goes, I love it. And that was his testimony. That video's worth $1 million to us,
Yeah.
So if you can get that emotional thing to people and emotionally say, get that message out and back it up with real reasons why you should do it. And then back it up with, hey, you can do it. And here's how much it costs. We'll do it for you. I think you hit those three things in your market, and you'll see that you're not going to walk in and your market's going to change overnight. But what's going to happen is you're going to be doing this, and all of a sudden you're going to go, oh, wow, we did 300 fences last year. It must be working. Just because it's not working right now doesn't mean it's not working. So I would say stick to your guns, quote it, and it will come.
And are you a fence builder? Just a follow up. So one thing we do, if you have the ability to pre-stain, so fence guys usually in the winter will offer discounts, right? Because times are slower, but you're trying to keep your guys busy. We typically offer a discount. But there's a whole thought process behind not offering discounts because it cheapens the value, the perceived value of what you're offering. So we will upgrade your fence to a pre-stained board at no additional costs. Well, that and a 10% discount, my costs are roughly the same thing. Now, it won't work for treated pine though. And so that's your original question. But what I'm trying to do, one, I'm keeping my guys busy. Two, I'm normalizing the fact that pre-stained fence pickets are just the way to go, So I say that to say the more you can do to normalize, hey, if you're not treating the fence, you're the oddball, right? I think you're money ahead to try to normalize it any way you can. My way is through pre-stained cedar, but your way might be, just shooting a video every time you get done staining a pine fence. And the video is basically like, well, just did another one. If you've got a pine fence and you like your fence to look great like this one, let me know. Give me a call. Something to that effect.
What's your fence company name? Ultimate. I got 6 quotes, and you're the only guy who quoted staining. You know what your response should be? I wonder why those other companies didn't quote staining.
Yeah, that's weird.
Just throw it back at them, and they're going to go,
yeah, I do that all the time. So I'll do that on that. Or if someone will say, well, so-and-so is less expensive, literally I'll just go, wonder why that is. Just let them create all their own reasons why, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you go about training a new guy?
Yeah, so we, a shameless product pitch, we have a field guide. So I'm a guy who's not like, I have to really force myself to sit down and do things. I spent my whole life in business hearing about like reading books and going to seminars and doing things about systems and processes and things like that. And I would read a book about systems and processes, and I would get through the book and I would be like, the whole book says you need systems and processes, but I bought the book for the systems and there's no systems in this book. I was going to seminars and YouTube videos, no systems, no processes. Finally, one day I just said, all right, what do we do? And I wrote it down and I made a field guide. And this basically was an SOP for our company. And this is, again, it's kind of like it's a 101, but it's every process of the job, for cleaning a fence, staining a fence, for showing up to work, for when you get to work, what do you do? What do you dress like? What are the steps? When you get in the truck and when you leave the customer's house, you wave and you drive slowly out of the neighborhood. the things that you need to do that you maybe you don't want to say because maybe you tell it to a new guy and he gets his feelings hurt or upset because it's common sense and he already knew it, but there may be somebody who needed to hear it. And then tips and tricks. And that's what we do. We give them this field guide and we say, hey, read this, and there's a test. Ryan, have you read this yet? You've got one, though. You got it when? When did I give you this? Ryan he's not come to work for us yet. Ryan has been kicking the idea around of coming on board with our company. And before he came in, we talked, just like Matt Warner said a few times, talked about just the whole thing, didn't even talk about money, nothing like that, just talked about it. And I said, here, take this home and read it. If he were to be hired full-time with us, he would take a test on this book. And we would, he's not going to be an expert stainer when he's done, but he's going to know what the heck's going on when he gets on a job site. And when he's with Cody, he's going to go, oh, I read in the book that you're supposed to brighten this. Maybe I'll go get the bucket that says brightener. And he's going to know those steps, and he's going to have a pretty good idea, and then he can master it. So I recommend you create an SOP of your own, or you can use this one for staining. But I recommend you just create an SOP. And once you finally do this in your company, this field guide, the SOP, then you can do one for setting fence posts. Then you can do one for how your truck's supposed to be loaded. Then you should do one for how you invoice the job. And just write it down. You're doing this stuff anyways. Make your wife, if you don't write good, make your wife do it and be like, okay, when I invoice the job, I do this, 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 and this. And then I hand it to them and I send it out. And when the check comes back, we make a copy of it. We staple it to it. We put it in the customer's file. And then we go ahead and fill out a thank you card and we ship it out a week later. If you can write that, now you've got a process. Now you can go on vacation, right? Because you can go here, invoice the jobs, follow this thing. And if you do that, that's what systems are in a business. I went to a $40 million fence company, and man, this guy took me under his wing. He's doing $40 million out of one location. And you know who it is if you were at the last staining event, Ruben. And I thought, man, I can't wait to see all of his systems and processes, all this fancy software he's got, the CRMs, all of the, he's probably got $1 million software that I've never even heard of. I get there and he goes, so all of our systems, he said, I want you to stay in the office with these couple girls, Leslie, and I can't remember the other one's name, and see all the systems. And he went over them with me real quick, and they deep dove in. Their systems was three spreadsheets, and they followed the system every single time. And so don't feel like just because you've got it on a spreadsheet or in a notebook that it's not a good system, because that actually is. Simpler, the bigger, fancier companies I see, they charge a premium price and they simplify things. So that's what I would do. I would just write down your process, whether it be building fences, building a gate, whatever, and just write it down. Figure out what works best for you. And if you're trying to bring on employees, I would err on the side of something that, what I'm getting at is there's some things you'll do as an owner and an operator with 20 years experience that you'll take a risk on, right? You'll say, all right, I'm not going to mask that wall because traffic's going to get really bad in about 45 minutes. I want to get out of town and the wind's blowing this way. I can stain this without getting any overspray on that. Do you want your new guy to do that? So make your systems very straightforward and simple. Some of our guys hate that, but you've got to follow those simple systems and make your book for that person, not for you. Make it for that person. That's what I would do. And if you want a field guide, go grab you one.
All right, Caleb, we got a question on the YouTube. We'll kind of go back and forth if that's all right. So Pete Bibby, B-I-B-Y.
You got it right.
All right, so Pete asks, hey, Joe, thanks for the awesome channel. We're about to put in a fence in Virginia. Freeze line's about 18 inches. I dig holes for posts around 30 inches, 6 inches in diameter. So it sounds like it meets ASTM standards. 30 inches deep does. So we run into issues with overly soft soil and the posts are wiggly. What do you recommend in this situation? Yeah, and it's funny. So I was talking to Matt that everyone has soil issues everywhere, right? If you talk to me, I deal in chunk rock. I got big chunky rocks. You can't chisel through them. You can't set to them if they're a bear to get out. You talk to somebody else, he's like, oh yeah, you think you got it bad? I got limestone. And if you've ever tried to do limestone, then you talk to another guy who goes, oh yeah, well, you think that's bad? I got sandy soil. And then the next guy says, I've got soft soil and the posts are wiggle. Like everyone has post issues everywhere. And we'll probably open this up to the floor too. So if you were setting posts in a situation where you didn't have a lot of rock, right? So if you live in an area that has sandy soil or just black dirt with no rocks, which some of us would kill to have that, what would you do? I mean, he's already setting 30 inches deep. So if for 18-inch frost line, 30-inch deep is perfectly fine. Now, one thing I will say, so he had said, 6-inch hole, and small. Right, and he's using. Well, let me scroll down here. He said he used quickcrete gravel at the bottom for a 4x4 post. So ASTM is 3 times the diameter of the post, 30 minimum 30-inch deep. So ASTM would tell you the hole needs to be 12 inches. Does anyone else here in the room deal with soil that maybe isn't rocky, maybe is sandy or loamy or whatever terms you want to use? What's that? Gotcha. 28. About how wide's that hole? Okay, yeah. So it's a bit wider than the example. So that's probably a common thread here is going wide.
Yeah, a 10.5-inch hole is ASTM standard on that 3.5-inch post. We said
you're right, yeah, because
it's not a 4x4.
It's a 4. So yeah,
a little beaver auger bit's 9 inches, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I would open my hole up. What I would do is find a guy that builds fence in that area and ask him what they're doing.
Gotcha.
Because he's putting gravel in the bottom of the post. A lot of guys aren't doing that. You
want to start a debate on YouTube?
Yes.
You talk about how you set posts.
What architect spec'd this?
Yeah. So because I know this because in the comment section of the majority of my videos, we do have discussions about concrete and how to properly. Do you encapsulate the post or do you use gravel? Do you not use concrete at all? Or do you use chat? It's all in the comments. And so I preface my videos, or I used to preface my videos by saying, I come to you with 3 generations of knowledge. I learned it from my dad, who learned from his dad. This is the way that works for me and my family. Your experience may vary, right? So for us, we encapsulate the post. It makes me feel good. It's always worked that way. I sleep well at night. I absolutely understand the argument for putting gravel in the bottom of a post. As moisture weeps down the post, it can then leave. It doesn't get trapped in that cup that the concrete creates by encapsulating it. My problem is if you live in an area with clay soil, well, it doesn't matter what you do. Clay's going to hold that water anyway, whether you put gravel down there or not. Now you've just created a pool of water. It's probably going to vary depending on where you live. I mean, if he's got soil that drains well, I don't know that gravel at the bottom of the post will be detrimental to the post. So the comment section will surely let us know which one of these is right.
I tell you what he can do. What he can do is he can open his holes up a little bit.
Yeah.
Let his concrete set up fully and use a nail gun or something. Don't be beating on those posts and wobbling them.
Yep.
Just be careful when he goes and strings it up and frames it and things like that.
Well, Caleb, you opened up a new and entirely other interesting point that you said nails, because if there's one thing that the comment section loves to talk about, it's nails versus screws.
What I'm getting at is I assume he's a homeowner.
Yeah.
And I assume maybe he doesn't want to go buy a $400 nail gun. So maybe he's hammering them on. It's only 100 feet. It's only 90 nails. He can hammer them by hand.
Sure,
no big deal. You feel like a man when you use a hammer.
Yeah.
So, but if you got loose soil, you don't want to be loosening that stuff up. Right?
We got an answer. He's got a nail gun. So
he's got a nail gun.
And now the comment section
beats it on there.
Yeah. Well, now the comment section will educate us on the difference between nails and screws. Mm-hmm. So can't wait for that. All right, so that was our YouTube question.
You should never use a nail or a screw.
No, hopes and dreams work well for me. Yeah. All right, so that was our YouTube question. Let's open it back up to the floor. Who's got a question? And we can just start picking people. Great question. So for those of you two that didn't hear it, the question being, if you could pick one key aspect that made a difference in your business, what would it be? Is that essentially it?
I have a hearing problem. Number one thing.
That's helped your business?
Yeah. Joe, I'm going to go in my little 12-foot Alumacraft John boat, and I'm going to catch a blue whale tonight, and I'm going to cook it before I get it back, and I'm going to eat it. What are you going to say? It's a terrible idea. Don't do it. You should never do that.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it anyways. I developed a hearing problem.
Gotcha.
You can't go to Texas and learn how to stain fences. It's December. That's the story. My wife's not here. So when I went to Texas to learn how to stain, I was broke. I think I had $500 or $600, and I took $500 to Texas, and that was it. My wife thought I was crazy. The story about the blue whale was Zig Ziglar used to say, "I'll go after Moby Dick in a rowboat and take the tartar sauce with me." And that's what I'll do. I developed a hearing problem. So many people say you're never going to be able to do it. Matt Warner, this software design idea is, Matt, you've never sold software. How are you going to do it? What do you have? You got a hearing problem, don't you? I think persistence and not giving up and knowing that I don't care what anybody thinks, and then being able to lay it all on the line.
I was really interested to hear where you're going with the blue whale analogy on how that infected your business, but it makes sense. It makes perfect sense.
And I'm up here.
I know. I should never lose faith in Caleb. It will come back around eventually. No, so I would say mine. So me and Matt and I talked about it earlier, is that putting a team around me, right? That I at least have the awareness to know I don't know what I don't know. And as Bob Vila said, it always used to say, if you're not a professional, hire a professional. So I've got an accountant that we meet with regularly to go over the books and the numbers and make sure that makes sense. A lawyer, an insurance agent. I have a team around me because I don't know the Missouri law like I should. I'm a fence guy, but I've got a lawyer that knows it pretty well. So if it's a mechanics lien question, or if it's something to that effect, I've got a team member. I've got someone in my circle of professionals there to answer the question. And if they don't know the answer, we all know somebody that does, right? They can refer me out. So I'd answer your question by saying, surrounding myself with a team of professionals that can be there to kind of be my support when needed. I think too often we see new contractors come in and really try to handle everything themselves.
Yeah.
And it usually doesn't end up very well.
Yeah. And you started out in a family business that was a little more established than me. And so when I say you got to have that hearing problem, you got to be willing to do things. When it's just you got to do everything. And when I said you got to be willing to lay it on the line, you got to be willing to lose it. You got to be willing. And that's the way I look at it in this business. It's as we grow and things get big, it scares me because it's getting big. There's a lot of money on the line. There's a lot of people dependent on it. There's, how many kids does each employee have? And you start adding it up in your head and you go, there's how many? Oh my God. There's a lot of there's a lot of mouths to feed. If I don't do this just right, I'm going to lose it. But you've got to be willing to do that. But I can only get so far on my own. And one of the biggest mistakes I think I made in business was not letting things go soon enough.
Yeah.
Not letting go soon enough. Why are you ordering the raw materials, Caleb? Because I've always done it. Now, let me tell you something. The first staining university, I was building the fence. I was mixing the stain. I was marketing it. I was cooking the freaking cheeseburgers. I was doing everything. I was cleaning the bathrooms. This event, it's the biggest one we've done. I didn't do anything. I mean, I did a few things, but it just magically happened. And it couldn't have happened without a freaking awesome team of rock stars. Like Mandy back there. I don't want to say retired because it makes her sound old. She's very young, but she's a school teacher and she moved from Florida to Tennessee and she decided not to teach school anymore. She is selling more. So we started a maintenance plan. I've been trying to get a maintenance plan going on for 5 years.
We've talked about it for a while.
She's already got a maintenance plan and got people on it.
Really?
Like after a week.
We'll be sure to talk about that later. I would love to hear all about this.
Yeah, but you're right. Once you get things going, that's how you get going. You got to get going on your own. You got to be willing to risk it, and you got to keep doing those things. But you got to grow a team. In order for it to really grow, you got to grow a team because you can't do everything yourself, and you got to let go.
I mean, you're one person. You only have so many hours in the day, so many days in the week. And trust me when I say this, when you start working more hours than your family is used to and more days than they're used to, you hear about it. They will give you feedback that you're not there enough. And I mean, I've got 3 kids. I've got a 12-year-old, a 3-year-old, and one that'll be 2 months on Sunday. So I want to play with my kids, so by surrounding myself with a team that handles business, that handles what they're part of my business, it allows me to come here. I mean, our business is still churning out fence today. I mean, not right now, it's a little bit after hours, but we've got a trade show this weekend going on. And if you would have asked me 3 years ago to come work, come help and talk to these folks, I would have told you, no way, Caleb, I can't do that. I got to be at the home show. I mean, who's going to do that? It's up to me. Well, I get out of my own way, and I realize my sister and my dad, they're fully capable. And if you ask them, they're better at it than I am. I disagree, but.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true because other people are better. I can look at each person on our team, and I can name about 20 things that they're better at me, or better than me at. And it's hard to swallow that sometimes because you say, well, I've always stained the fence, or I've always changed the oil in the trucks or whatever. But once you start letting that stuff go and giving it to someone who's better, once you understand the fact and you see people, if you try to micromanage everything and keep your thumb on people, it holds them back. And you don't get to see their full potential. And then you go, well, I got these employees, but how many times have you gone places? I hate it when I go fence builders. It's in every industry. Our group's not like this. But when you go to other industry events, everybody's going, man, my employees, I hate them. They're doing this and this and this and this. And I don't even want to be in that conversation. I want to be like with Matt Warner, who's going, can you believe these people I've hired? Look at what they're doing. Look what they've done. It's fantastic. They're so much better than me. You got to have that mindset, and you got to have those people too. You can't hire a bunch of losers. Yeah. Everybody on our team is doing things at such a higher level than I could. And I'm kind of like a butterfly that just flies around doing things. It's like I'll be over here a little bit and over there. And that's the way I did things. But once things get bigger, we've got to have structure, and I'm not good at structure.
Yeah.
So we have people who are good at structure. I'm not good at keeping the books. So we have bookkeepers. Yeah. So that's the next thing. And I would do that sooner than later and outsource it until you can't outsource it anymore and then bring it in-house.
Yeah. So I think what Caleb was trying to say is team development is important. Mm-hmm. There you go.
Good people.
That's right. So, all right. So we'll get to, all right. So Landmark Creations. Do you know Landmark Creations? They are, let me scroll. I should have scrolled before I started saying this. So he works by Mount Rainier.
Mount Rainier.
Yep.
Never heard of the guy.
All right. So Landmark works by Mount Rainier. I mean, Landmark, I know Landmark. So they're in the comments here. He is in the comments a lot. But I thought maybe he was telling you.
That's something about the ground, probably.
Okay.
I bet he's got granite or something like that.
I'm with you. So he weighs in and says he always puts cement under the post. There's more than one way to do it. So there you go. So we've got one vote for gravel under the post and one vote for encapsulation.
Yeah, but if you
for those of you keeping track,
it lasts forever. Seriously, on my old property, I had a farm, and we had a fence that was put in right after World War II. Documented family put in right after World War II. It was split posts, so a round 5-inch post split. They tamped them into the ground. They're solid as a rock. Like a bobcat hit the first. We tried to use a bobcat. These are creosote posts, real creosote, so the post is solid as a rock. We took a bobcat, like an 85 horse bobcat, and we were trying to rip this old fence out, and it was me on there. So I look like a crazy person. I'm hitting it and doing all this, and after like 16 hits, I finally broke the post in half, and then we just chopped it off. Finally got it out, and it smelled like fresh creosote. There was no concrete on it. That post was tamped into the ground, and it's. The old timers around here, they would tamp them, dig a hole and tamp them, or they had a really big wooden mallet and they would actually drive them. And man, those posts, if no concrete, it's not a fast method, but that's a big thing here in Kentucky. Well,
you will surely start a whole new and interesting conversation in the comments.
You've seen those trucks with the post pounders.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's the thing. So Mark Olson's a channel I watch, and he's a huge proponent of driving posts. Yeah. So, again, under the banner of there's always more than one way to install a fence.
Well, I'll stir it even deeper. Okay. We're in coatings. In Kentucky, you got a lot of farm fences. There's fences in Kentucky. There's 150 miles of fence on one farm.
Wow.
And people have to paint those fences, right? They paint them. Well, it costs a lot of money to replace 150 miles of fence, right? Even if you do a little bit at a time. I mean, think about that. And that's real.
Take forever.
They've got fences up there that were drove in the ground that are over 100 years old, and they're maintaining them. They're horse fences. It's been horse race country up there for years. Sure. They've got fences that are over 100 years old. The posts were drove in the ground. It's the original post.
Incredible.
And it may be regional. You know,
Yeah.
you may do that in a different part of the country, and the soil's highly acidic and it eats it up. But here, Tennessee, Kentucky, they drive a lot of post and it works.
And it's probably gonna also get to how the post is treated, how well it's treated, and what treatment it's treated with. Like I said, a lot of guys do drive without concrete, and so again, under the banner of there's more than one way to install a fence.
I'll stop trolling.
No, it's fine. It's absolutely okay. All right, so Landmark Creation says, in this Amazon.com generation, returning the customer's calls and getting back to them quickly is key. If you can generate an estimate on site, the chances of getting that job goes up exponentially, is what he's saying.
He's absolutely right.
Yeah, so I will agree. I will counter that, though, so in our process, Matt and Rachel and I were talking about My Salesman earlier. We use the online quote tool. So Caleb, if you send me an online quote tool, I mean, obviously it's 5:00 today, but if you'd send it to me at noon, you would have immediately got an email from one of my team saying, we've reviewed the details of your proposal. We'd love to reach out to you. Here's a scheduling link to schedule a call with Sarah as early as tomorrow. So we don't schedule calls same day because that gets a little bit tricky with everybody's schedule. Anyway, then the next day, Sarah reaches out and says, Caleb, I'm looking right now and I see the whole details of your fence. I see a satellite image of your home. Is there anything here I'm missing? Is there a shed that got put in? Is there a ditch I don't see? Is there anything crazy? As long as the answer is no, it's like, all right, well, I'm going to do this. I trust the measurements of the online quote tool so much, I'm going to send you a proposal. It's a firm quote. Now, the only thing that's going to change, I'm going to give you a 10-foot margin of error because your question is going to be, well, how accurate is it, right? I say it's a 10-foot margin of error. If the quote tool tells me it's 200 feet and I come out there and I measure and it's 208 feet, I'm going to call it 200 feet. That's just because I know deep inside, the margin of error is like a foot or two. Yeah, like it's super close. And I said, but here's the thing. Let's talk about this. If it says it's a 200 feet and I come out there and it's 192 feet, what do you think is going to happen? And then you say, well, it's probably going to be 200 feet. No, it's 192 feet. The only person that wins in this scenario will be you, I promise. And then after that, we're off to the races. So from the time you've reached out on Monday, sent the quote tool, I can get you a proposal the next day. So it's helped our speed of getting these proposals out exponentially, like hugely. Yeah. So we were a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks out on getting proposals out there. Now we can get a proposal out next day. So I agree with Landmark, but I will add the caveat that speed absolutely kills deals. Time kills deals. The faster you can be on getting proposals out, the better.
Yeah, but you skip a step. You skip the My Salesman thing, the pre-qualification.
Yeah.
So before they even get to schedule that call, don't they have to go and use your online?
No, that's what I said. So yeah, if you'd gone online,
they're instantly getting a price. They're getting a budget number right away.
Sorry, I did miss that. Yeah, so they've gotten a budgetary price already. You're right. I'm sorry I missed that. So you knew that your project is between $6,500 and $7,500, and so you've already said that's about what I've had budgeted. So I'd like a firm quote. You're right, and so then we can get you a firm quote within the next day. Barring evenings and weekends and that sort of thing. So, it's 5:00, 5:05 now. So if someone were to send us an online quote tool, they would get an email at 7:30 tomorrow morning. So in this instance, it would be Wednesday for they could get a proposal. Yep, I agree. All right, so that was our YouTube question. Let's open it up to the floor.
Yeah, let me make a quick announcement. Yep. It's 5:05. I know a lot of you folks are probably wanting to go clean up. The Cahoots is the name of the place. You can Google it, and I think there's messages that are going out. Starts at 6:00. Food, drinks, music, boot scoop boogie, whatever. Sean King will be here 7:30 in the morning. So so tomorrow, I know a lot of you guys are wanting to build fence and do the fence demonstration. It's going to be a lot of hands-on. So Sean's going to talk first thing. So if we could start this morning, we started around 8:30. If we could start that talk a little closer to 8, just get right in and get after it. We won't have to do introductions. That would be fantastic. So you can get the most out of the hands-on training. And we're going to do staining stuff too tomorrow. So if you don't want to do the fence building, you can do it. But Sean King will be here. He will enter the building at 7:30.
It's a very precise schedule.
Out here? We'll stay as long as you want. If you guys want to head back to your hotel, that's fine. Go ahead.
No, that's a great question.
Well, it would probably be the getting around good people, letting go of people. One of my problems has always been I see potential in somebody, and I say, if I was that person, I was that smart and that intelligent, I would, man, I could do anything. I could do so much better than I'm doing. But sometimes those people, they're not going to. And that mentor, Ruben, you heard about, the $40 million guy, he said, some will, some won't, so what next? And that's a hard way to be. And you want to give people chances, to do things. But if you got a guy who stole from you 4 times, he's wrecked your truck, he's been showing up high, he's been showing up drunk, get that person out of your company. You can't. Would you let them babysit your kids? No, then get them out. You don't want them on your job site. You don't want those people. So get rid of bad people. Don't procrastinate on decisions. I think that you need to make. If you got to look at it as a business, and you got to treat it as a business.
Yep.
So I think I would have picked up on that. And another thing I would have done probably that would have helped me more than anything is, and I did this a little bit, but not enough. I called people and the best guy in the market, and I would ask him. I wanted to learn how to paint fences. I went to Kentucky and found the best guy, and he took me under his wing. But I would have found more good mentors like Matt Warner. He's mentoring me a little bit, and I'm about to start honking on him a whole lot more, ringing his phone up. But if you find successful people, they want other people to be successful and get around. I went to Ruben's place. The $40 million guy showed me his entire accounting. He showed me everything. He held nothing back, because what is that going to do? Take some of his business away? Yeah. His train wasn't stopping. So get a good mentor. That's what, if anything, get a good mentor, because that mentor will teach you to get that person out of your business. He'll teach you to get up earlier. He'll teach you to make good decisions. So probably a mentor. Would you agree with that, Matt?
I would, and I also don't be scared to make those mistakes, because part of your success is learning from the mistakes you make. I beat myself up over this and that and that, and I finally just said, you know what? I'm going to make mistakes. I'm human. Let's rock and roll. So really, I always, people ask me that all the time, and I would say, you know what? I don't think I changed anything, because I screwed up so many times now. I know how to fix all those.
Yeah. So Matt said, don't be afraid to screw up. And I should say that, because another thing that touched another thing, I know how I think. I have only seen the world through my own eyes, and I take risks. I'm not afraid to make a mistake. Not afraid at all. I do jujitsu. Okay. So I go get choked out. My first day of jujitsu, like a 110-pound girl choked me to death. Like, and I was a wrestler. So I was like, this will be easy. I thought, like, I tried to throw up for 10 minutes. And there's 2 kinds of people, the kind that never come back and the kind that go every day. I continue to go. But I'm not afraid to make mistakes. I'm not afraid to be humbled by things. Some people are scared to death and paralyzed of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're paralyzed by fear of doing things, you're going to have to evaluate yourself. Maybe entrepreneurship isn't for you, or maybe you just say, all right, that's part of it. I'm going to fail. If you're 22, how old are you? 23 years old. I was close. If you're 23 years old, you've got plenty of time to go broke and bankrupt 4 or 5 times and still be rich. Grant Cardone, when he was 25, he was on drugs and couldn't hold a job and was crazy. And now he's 58 or 60 and he's got like $1 billion of real estate. So don't be afraid to fail. Yeah, what Matt said.
Yeah. So Elon Musk has an interesting quote. So someone was talking to him about the failures of SpaceX. And he said, I hope we don't fail. I hope we fail more and we fail faster. Because his point being, the more you fail and the faster you fail, the faster you get through it, and then you're on to the next iteration. If you spend all your time worrying about what ifs, I don't know, and what if it doesn't work, you're going to spend all your time worrying about that one issue.
What did Elon say about the chance? Because he's a numbers guy, right? He figured out what the number was, the percentage chance that SpaceX would fail. What was it? It was like 97.4%. He knew it was going to fail. Yeah. He knew it would fail, but he did it anyways.
Yeah. Well, and because that's his whole philosophy, though, right? He knows in his heart of hearts that he will spend his last days on Mars. Like, that's his thing. He's going to die on Mars. So now he just needs to figure out how to get there. Yeah. And he needs to fail fast. He needs to fail often so that then he can build on that and continue to grow.
Yeah, you don't have to know how you're going to do it. You just got to know you're going to do it.
Yep, that's right. Did we answer your question?
Yeah, she had a question too.
Perfect.
That may be a good question for Rachel. Well, she's busy.
Oh, yeah.
She asked, how do you factor in unforeseen circumstances such as core drilling?
set the range big or small as you want. And I always set my range. So the very, very bottom of my range is the price point that I want in a good condition. Not great, not bad, but good. And then I add 20, 25%. If we're busy this summer, I'll take that as a 30% because I don't like to fill up too early. I want my competitors to fill up early because I want my price all year long. And in the summer, I want to make I want to rock and roll. So I always put that. So I tell you what, I very rarely ever, if the drawing is too, by the way, the drawing is super accurate. If you go to the Royal State of Lincoln, Nebraska, you can draw it out in 30 feet. It's on the money.
Yeah.
The problem is you do have the unforeseen. So it is covered in that range, and almost always we fall in that range. And actually, it's a psychological thing. They think that you're getting a good deal because it's at the bottom, and really that's full price. So if they see it say for 5,000 to 6,000, and you sell that place, if you're able to get that bill for $49.90, you're going to sell that every time because it's even below that range. It's still like a full price.
And one thing, Matt, too, that we do in ours is you can add a note section. You can add details, like standard details that go on every quote, and we just.
I don't want to ever take away the salesmanship part of it. I like talking to people. As you can tell, I'm into what I do. I love my business. I want to go sell for them. I want them to see my energy there. Let's rock it. I want to knock this out. So I want that. But you also need to put that last email in there and say, there might be some other things.
Yeah, so the email would basically say pricing reflects standard installation. Installations that are not standard, the pricing likely will differ than what you've received, or something in your own words, a version of that, just saying, hey, this is a standard installation. If you got something special, we're probably going to have to work on it. Well, so there's that. So tear out. You can add. Is that live? Yeah. There is an option where they can click if they want removal, and then you set the price for your removal.
I don't like tear-outs. I really don't. I've had too many things go wrong, and then I just have a whole bunch of wood that I have to try to get rid of, and blah, blah, blah. So I charge a lot for tear-outs, and then I give my guys extra money for the tear-outs. So my guys love tear-outs. I hate tear-outs. I want them to love them.
Yeah.
I hate them. So I charge a lot for it to love them. They'll go, oh my gosh, $2,000? I can tear that out. And I'm like, go get it.
Yeah, so I don't know if you can do this. I don't know how the follow-up emails, but I think it's a perfect time to, if you could set this up in your CRM, when you get when that customer clicks submit on that quote, I'm sure they get an email copy. You should have an email set up that goes right back out and that introduces who you are. Thank you for taking the time, and again, this is just a budget number for you to consider. And if you've got this or this, it might change things, and it gives you a moment to set that expectation and to put a name with the face for the company, and just for your customers to feel more like they're dealing with a real person. So that's probably what I would do if we're doing my salesman, and we'll probably have me doing a video that says, if you got a swimming pool, we're going to mask it, and they'll probably have the button for that anyways. But those things, I think it gives you an opportunity to get in front of them more.
Absolutely. So we've got a question in the YouTube comments. So it says, and this is kind of a tee up for you, Caleb. It says, if you use wood post, do you coat the section underground as encapsulation or just cement? Do you recommend the half round post, as Caleb just said, or 4x4? So first question being, do you coat the post under the ground, assumably to prevent from rot?
Well, if the fence is installed, we can't do it. It's already in the ground. If we're pre-staining a post, then yes. If we're I'm not a fence contractor anymore. If I was, I would put a post saver sleeve on that. And we do pre-sleeving service for contractors locally. We pre-sleeve a post. We charge $10. They bring us their post or have them delivered. We pre-sleeve those posts. We pack them back up and send them out to their job site, and it's $10 a post, and they upsell that to their customer as a 20-year warranty. And so I would do that. In about the half round post, those posts were installed in like 1945, like 1945 or 46. So
they're probably not available.
Yeah, and we tore those posts out probably 3 years ago.
And guys, we
didn't tear them out. We broke the one and said they're good, and we strung up new wire.
So, guys, one of the things we talk about on the live a lot, it seems like about once a week it gets asked about coating to prevent rot. And this is exactly, so what I usually do is I walk you guys through the Post Saver website, talk about what it is. So we actually have a Post Saver sleeve here just to kind of illustrate exactly what it is. So, Caleb, why don't you walk us through what is a Post Saver sleeve?
Well, let me see this thing. So this is a Post Saver sleeve, as you can see. I'll hold it up here for the camera. The black goes in the ground. The green is there's a ground line right here at the halfway mark. If you've never seen this, and it's spelled out right on it. It says ground line. And basically, there's lots of install videos on this. But whatever your ground line is, if you're in Nashville, we set post 24 inches. So we would mark 26 inches on the post, and usually we would cut a stick that's 26 inches and just hold it up there and slide the thing on, and we get it in the right place. And what happens when you run this to 26 inches, the ground line is right here. So this sticks out, all that's going to stick out of the ground is just what's right above my hand. And this Post Saver sleeve is a thermoplastic liner with a bitumen or asphalt liner in it. And you can touch it and you're clean. But when you open this thing up and slide it up on the post and you put it on with a torch, you heat shrink it. And it takes, I got a guy that can do about 1,000 of them a day with, one person with a helper doing that. And that's by hand. You can get a machine and all kinds of stuff. We actually bought a machine and it didn't get UL approved before it came over here. So we couldn't take it and we didn't get the machine. So unfortunate, but yeah, you can do those. There's directions right on there. It's very self-explanatory. But the cool thing about this is this is a $200 million company that you've never heard of in the United States because it's new to the United States. But it's been going on since 1994 overseas. Things that happen overseas usually happen there first, then they hit California, and then they hit the coasts, and then they work their way in. So, the treatment processes were drawn back in lumber. A lot. It happened first overseas. So they had a major problem with post rotting, and they still do. And this Post Saver sleeve eliminated it. It stopped it 100%. And it's an engineer-owned company based in England, and they're really big. If they're listening, Tony, I'm sorry, but you guys are some nerds when it comes to testing because they have every test, every university, everything you can think of. They've tested it, and it's been zero failures. There's some people that'll claim there's a Chinese maker that copied these things, and they had some that failed, but it wasn't Post Saver. And if you put this thing on right, it's impossible. It's physically impossible for a post to rot. So that's why we are a distributor for these, and we believe in them because it's $3 for this thing.
Yeah.
That's a contractor price, but it's $3. And you can't afford not to do it in my mind because I've got an emotional tie to it. In Nashville, a bunch of untreated posts came out when I was running a fence business, and we got sued for a ton of money because we do a lot of 4-rail fence, and it cost $40,000 to defend ourselves in court. The company that sold the lumber settled outside of court, and every fence company in the suit got left with a $40,000 attorney bill. And I thought, well, if we'd have used Post Saver sleeves, our fences wouldn't have fell over. They pulled cores out, and our CCA treated posts, they weren't treated properly, and they rotted in 3 to 5 years. The fence was laying on the ground. And
Caleb, let me ask you. You said 26 inches. That's not 26 inches.
Yeah, you're right. This is 16 inches, I believe. And what happens is the first 8 inches of ground is the area. There's a name for it.
Aerobic zone.
The aerobic zone. And I wish I had my little picture here, but there's microorganisms live in the ground there. Bugs, things that cause rot. Yeah. In our drawing, they're little green things. So there they are over there. But they eat posts, and there's only enough oxygen in the soil, 8 inches. So you only have to cover really this much of the post to prevent rotting. We go further, but what happens if you do a cross section of a post that's been in the ground for 20 years with a sleeve on it? what you'll see is this down here at the bottom. There's a little moisture there. The moisture rating is high, but there's no oxygen down there. So that part of the ground preserves post. That's why they dig up canoes that are 500 years old that are 4 feet deep in the ground from the Indians, because they can survive down deep. But that top layer where there is the microorganisms, we're protecting them from there. And also we're preventing, if you're eco-friendly, we're preventing CCA treatment or ACQ from, is it ACQ now or MCQ?
So you see both. You see
treatment,
ACQ, MCQ, and MCA.
Yeah, it keeps that from leaching out and further prolonging the life of our fence post. And these things here, actually, one of the big problems we had in Canada was I told you this before, the wineries. If you're a certified organic winery, you can't use treated post. And if you've got 75 acres of what are they, grapevines, you've got 10,000 posts on your property, and you have to change them every 2 years because they rot out.
Yeah.
These are certified. They're so eco-friendly. You can do certified organic grapes with these in your wineries or your vineyards. So the testing's done. It's a proven product. It's just slow to catch on in America, but we've sold maybe 30 or 40,000 just in California over the last year. We've sold them in other markets, and I just took another huge order in California. It's gaining popularity. If you haven't seen it and you're a fence builder, you're going to see it.
Yeah.
And it's going to come up there. It's going to be right there as popular as wood post, I do believe.
And speaking of eco-friendly, one thing we see in the comments a lot is, well, I coat my post with used motor oil or this or that and the other. What a nightmare if the EPA were to ever come by and say, sir, we'd like to test the soil, and then come to find out it's got motor oil in the soil.
Well, you can't do it as a company. It's a liability.
Right.
It's a liability. $3.03 versus motor oil. It's not worth it, and it's not worth going to jail or losing your business over it.
That's right. Do we have a question?
Yeah.
Well, so A, cheaper than $3 a post is probably going to be hard. B, you would have to, for it to be apples and apples comparison, you had to compare it with some sort of other organic treatment, and there really isn't that out in the market.
Yeah, so we've tested it. A lot of guys, they get a 5-gallon bucket of roofing tar, they dip the post. Well, the first 5 posts work great, but once it gets down low, you can't dip it anymore. So you got to start trialing it on.
Yeah.
So the first 3, you can dip them a little faster. Probably not, because it sticks and you're trying to get it off. But the long story short is that fails over time. In ground testing and accelerated testing, where we put it in a big pot, a tank of dirt that's full of water, and it's heated up to 100 degrees and left like that for 48 months. We've done those accelerated tests too, and that will fail. And it's also probably not the most environmentally friendly thing.
Yeah,
and it's nasty. It is. I mean, it's a mess to do it. And this is 45 seconds of post.
Yeah, my concern would be, we live in a society that is continually more and more litigious as the years go on. I would worry about the day where that coating fails and leaches into the soil, and that causes insert nightmare, right? That then turns into a problem, because they're like, well, you as a contractor coated it with this, so you're liable now for whatever it is,
Those things are unlikely, but they're definitely something we should think of. Another thing is, I lost my train of thought, Joe. I've got a good idea, but I'll come back to it.
You got lots of good ones. We just got to get them out of there.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, it was pricing. How much can you charge for that? Dipping it in a bucket of tar. We're gonna dip your post in a bucket of roofing tar, customer. It works great. My grandpa did it, and it probably does. It doesn't work quite as well as this, and we can prove it with testing over the long term. But what can you charge for that? What can you charge for this? There's some studies done. I told you, Tony and those guys over there, they're nerds. Customer consumers, they, on a fence post with a 15-year warranty, on a fence post with a 10-year warranty, they were 94% of people surveyed were willing to pay the additional cost for the 20-year warranty. Like 87 or 89% of consumers surveyed were willing to pay the extra money who already had a 15-year warranty. So they were willing to pay the same money for the add-on, and they already had a 15-year warranty just to get the 5 additional years. So there's value. I know contractors right now that are selling millions of dollars worth of these in their companies that are charging $40 a post. They pay me $3. It makes me sick when I send him that 30,000 sleeve order for $3 a piece, and I know he's getting $40 a pop out of it.
Yeah. All right. So, yeah.
You had another question in the back.
I like this subject a lot. So the question is, how much do you invest in customer appreciation? And it's probably it shouldn't vary, but it does vary, right? Based on client, the project size. If it's $100 project, which we should all have minimums that are significantly greater than $100, but if it's a $100 project, you can't spend $50 in customer appreciation. But so we get creative. So when I say we, I mean my sister Sarah. Like I use royal we at our company a lot.
Woman, that's something we see in women in our companies. Men don't think about those things.
Yep. So 3 things: keep a fence company in business, kids, pets, bad neighbors. So for the kid, so this varies depending on which project. For the kid, for the family that has kids, that's why they're having a fence installed. We take our coal cedar boards, we paint them with chalkboard paint, and we give them 3 orange pieces of chalk with a chalkboard on a coal piece of cedar, and we cut it at like 12 inches or something. Kids love it, and moms appreciate it, right? For the customers with pets, they get a little baggie full of doggy treats with an orange bow and an orange chew toy, like a chew toy that we buy in bulk, and it's not much money. But I would challenge you to not think of it in terms of dollars, but in terms of impact, right? So, and that's just kind of what we do. What do we do for bad neighbors? We don't really do anything because the fence is gift enough, right? But that's kind of what we do. We do chalkboards and we do dog bones with chew toys.
Yeah. Thank you, card. Thank you, card. $5 Starbucks gift card. Everybody loves a free cup of coffee. Yep. And I think you should spend more, maybe not so much in customer appreciation, but in continual touching them, because the fencing industry, what's it up to now? It's over $9 billion. What's it up to?
It's a lot.
9, 10, maybe $11 billion industry. People are getting fences, and everybody talks, and if I think Joe is doing everything orange and he's getting known, and people, if you're touching these people every quarter or every month, or you send them a birthday card, a random thing, some companies you get your oil change and they're like, what's your birthday? Well, they're going to send you a birthday card.
Yep.
That's why they want to know that. And I think a dollar amount, I don't know, but I think you should spend, for me, your people build a fence once. Fence builders, you build their fence once. For me, I'm looking for that long-term maintenance because I want to maintain it. If it's a property manager that's over 14 neighborhoods, you better send them something once a month. For me, I'm going to send them something. We're going to experiment with it this year, and we're going to, we send the thank you card out, but we're going to send out probably thinking a monthly thing for our past customers. Like we're going to go back.
Like Jelly of the Month Club?
Yeah. I've got all these really smart people in our company, and they're like, hey, how long have you been doing this? How many jobs you do here? So then they're like, so you got like 5,000 past customers we can call on? I'm like, yeah. and so if we go back to those people and send them stuff, they already know us. They've already done business with us. And if they don't do business with us again, at least they'll remember us. And when their brother gets a fence, they'll take care of it. And maybe their kids just got married, and they, how many people you fence builders go to and you're like, yeah, my parents are building me a fence. You're 40 years old, right? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, I wish I had parents like that. That happens a lot, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they'll pay to have it stained for us,
Yeah, and I'll challenge your thought that you build a fence once. On average, people move houses every 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, we had a lot of repeats.
So that's the thing. So as fence builders, we also have to think like that. It's not good enough to do a great job on this fence. We need to be top of mind. We need to do something that lives rent free in the back of their minds for the next 3 to 5 years. So I like your point about an ongoing. We do Christmas cards. It's kind of expected. But if you could do an ongoing outreach, that would probably be more impactful too. Like I said, every 3 to 5 years. I was pretty surprised when I had read that, and then I went back and looked at like our repeat customer list. Not wrong.
Yeah.
Not wrong.
I've had the same phone number for about 15 years, and I still get I get people, hey, you built our fence back in 2007. We want another one. So people, I guess maybe they save it in their phone or whatever, but people they'll spend money with you again.
Yeah. If you do it right.
And you can never track the people that refer you, because a lot of times, call this guy, they save it on their internet or whatever, and a year later they call you, and you can't track a lot of it.
And now, like with Facebook recommendations, like Facebook groups, someone asks, hey, who builds fence? We'll get tagged 10, 15 times in one of these. And sometimes by people that, A, I don't know, and B, like we like to send thank you cards, right? So I'll look up and see, like, I'll try to find an address for this person in our customer list. Not in our customer list. So it's like, I don't know who they are, but I really appreciate it.
Do you think it is better to send, we'll just say cheesy things, little things that mean nothing?
Yes.
Versus something that they would hold on to, like a refrigerator magnet with a maintenance guide on when you should wash your roof, when you should wash your house, when you should do your fence, versus just a thank you card. How do you feel about that?
I would lean towards whatever's goofy and quirky and makes them laugh. You remember educational content and you remember funny content, things that make you laugh or things that make you think. And so I am always like, that's part of why I do everything orange, because it's goofy and it kind of makes people chuckle when they hear the story about me putting an orange tree in our front yard, my wife not loving it. People laugh about that, and now you remember that story, right? So if I could think of something quirky, like some quirky twist on a thank you, 100%. Our Facebook page every Sunday we have a dad orange joke, right? Like I don't know. All the orange jokes are all over. Like one is like, why couldn't one orange talk to the other orange because one was Mandarin or something like that? And then orange, you glad you picked Ozark fence. We're big on that joke around the office. Anything that you can do quirky or funny, pretty big fan of. So
who else has got one?
Let me read. So for YouTube. So the question is, how did you transition from being owner operator, so guy with his own crew, to transitioning more into guy in an office that has crews operating independently? Is that basically it?
So you want to work more on your business, work maybe in the office or whatever. A lot of guys ask me that question a lot, and the thing is it doesn't happen. It's never going to happen. You're never going to be able to stain fences every day for a living, build fences every day, and then the next day be in the office and never leave the office. It may have happened, but it's very rare. You have to get a mobile office, okay? You got to get a truck. You've got a truck, right? You've already done the first step. So what you're going to do is get guys that you trust as you grow confidence in them, grow your confidence in them, get them started. They know what to do. What are you doing, fence building or staining? Well, do your guys know how to set the corners? Pull a string line and start marking out the post? Well, you can be making phone calls while that's going on in the truck. Do your guys know how to, string pickets up or string runners or whatever? If they know how to do those things, you can sit in the truck and you can be in the truck writing things, taking notes, watching them. Walt Dennis does it. He calls me all the time. I don't think he's actually working. He's just calling me BSing a little bit. But that's it. I call it the mobile office. So you set your guys up. Remember I said Cody, he did this deck. This was his first deck, and I just dropped him off. That's what I did, man. I wanted another crew. I hired more people. Cody did a couple of little things, and I said, all right, you can't mess up with our stain. It's pretty easy to use. So I dropped him off, and I said, I'll be back. And a lot of times I would be gone longer than they wanted me to be gone, but I always come back. And usually I'm like, hey, where y'all at? But you're going to have to make that transition slowly. And so you're watching from the truck. And if you see that they're not getting things done quick enough, or they're at a sticky point or whatever, get out and go down there and help them out. And maybe you drop them off, you get them started. And now you've got another crew. They've already got to the job site. They've unloaded the concrete. They've laid stuff out where it needs to be. But you say, hey, don't dig any holes. Don't lay anything out until I'm there with you and the customer. Well, when you've already got your first crew going, you guys are good. All right, I'll be back in a little bit. Go to the next one, get those guys set up and going. And now you've met with the customer and you're teaching that crew how to be efficient, because they want to have all their stuff laid out so that when you get there, they can get to work. And then when you get there, you teach them how to interact with the customer, how to get things laid out, and you can keep your thumb on that and make sure it's right. And then you got 3 estimates to do. You tell those guys, hey, I'll see you back in a little bit. And maybe your guys are, maybe they're bad on gates. Maybe they're just not really good at framing in gates yet. Or maybe they always do the braces wrong, no matter how many times you tell them, show up. You know about when they should be at that point at the job site. Show up. And don't be upset if you get there and they're not as far along as you wanted. You want to push them to continue to grow, but they're never going to do things as fast as you want them to. They're never going to do things as fast as the guy who's like Sean King tomorrow. You're going to see him run 100 miles an hour. And I'm curious to see if his guys can run as fast as him. He'll probably tell you nobody's as fast as me. You can't expect them to be, but you're going to meet some guys that are faster. You're going to have a big guy who can carry 17 4x4s on his shoulder, and he can go up a loose gravel hill to a water tower faster than you can drive the truck up there. And you're going to have other guys that can't do that. So find their strengths and put them in those places and check on them. And eventually you'll find that you can send them out and you never even have to show up out there to the job. They bring you the check. But it takes time, but you need to use that time to your advantage also. You need to be, you're sitting in the truck. If you're trying to get more fence jobs, you need to be calling developers. You need to grow your business. Do you have a salesman? You're the salesman, right? You need to be calling people. Hey, I saw you guys, you pull housing builds, like if they're going to build a house.
Yep.
But you need to be finding where this construction's going on. I've got the benefit of seeing a lot of fence company quotes. A lot of companies, they just say, hey, we built this fence. Here's the paperwork. Take care of them. And I see their source. Where did this lead come from? Developer, HOA, referral. Developer, HOA, referral. And for every 10 of those, I see a Facebook. And then I never hardly see Google, but making relationships. When you can't go in the office full time until your company is making money, right? You can't just quit and go sit in the office. And what are you going to do in the office? What are you going to do? So take that time to get the things done you got to do. If you got to do accounting, whatever, just do that office work in the truck. Does that make sense? Yeah. That's what I'm going to do.
So I'll put my spin on it. Is what is essentially the same answer. So I am an employee of my business, right? So if I want to promote myself, I need to find someone to promote into that position. I tell my guys that all the time. I will promote you as soon as you have someone that you can promote under you, right? You can be promoted as soon as you can promote. Bingo. That's it. And that should start on day 1, right? Training your replacement. So essentially what Caleb said, like I'll parrot that a little bit by saying, so you hire someone to replace you. They don't replace you on day 1. You start training them to replace, or you have someone on your crew that's ready to start learning to replace you. And just like Caleb said, it's gradual. It's not day 1. It's day 273 or something. But you start it gradually until you're ready to promote yourself into a superintendent role. To Caleb's point, someone that gets a crew started, goes off and does sales for a while, comes back, makes sure everything got done to a certain degree. Caleb's point is also valid that it's not every day. You're not expecting them to perform at the same rate that you can or that you do. Usually that's just not reasonable, right? So there's a thought about delegation that if you could find someone to do something at 80% of your proficiency at it, you should delegate that. Because at that point, it's wasting your time to get that other 20%. If you can delegate that to someone who can devote more time to that at a lower rate, you have a financial duty to delegate that out. And it's the same thought. And so then while you're at the superintendent role, now you're doing sales and superintendent, and you're doing a couple other things. All right. Is a crew chief ready to be promoted up to a superintendent so that you can provide more time available for sales? Maybe. Or maybe they're not. Maybe that's your role that you enjoy doing. Here's the thing. Like, I love doing marketing for our business. I also love running the day-to-day operations of our business. I am not interested in promoting anyone into those roles. But maybe Monday morning I wake up and I'm like, don't love it. Well, now we're going to start looking at somebody that can do 80% of that. So then I can promote myself into some other role, right? And promote them up into that. I promote myself into something else. So promote yourself as soon as you can. As soon as someone has it, at 80% proficiency. Does that make sense? Dad, what do you think about that? Yeah. So, and that's the thing, guys, is you don't show up to work one day and everybody gets everything right. You know what I mean? Like, it's a gradual process, but you always reward and applaud advancement, right? So he unloads the truck while you're off doing something. That's an attaboy, because especially if it didn't take nudging, if it didn't take someone telling him, hey, that truck's not going to unload itself, boys. If he did that on his own, then that's worthy of applaud, right? And here's the thing. So I came from a multi-generational company. So my granddad bought it from his brother-in-law. My dad bought it from his dad. I bought it from my dad. And you didn't ask for this advice, but I'm going to give it anyway. You should start having a conversation about what succession looks like here, right? Like, obviously that conversation's not finished for a while. I wish we had that conversation. I'm throwing this thing around. I wish we had this conversation. My dad and I had a conversation 5 years before that we actually started it, because we weren't. There wasn't any like event that was happening that just triggered the sale. But I wish we had at least had that conversation to know that's where things were going, right? To know that thought was at least rolling around in there. And so what made me think about that is you should have this conversation with your guys too. Hey, I'd really like to promote myself into a superintendent role. I can't do that until I have someone that's ready to step up to a crew chief role. I'm thinking about you for that role. What do you think? Okay. Now, it's not happening tomorrow. Like, we're not there right now, but we will get there. I want us to get there. Do you want to get there? Because here's what I've been guilty of. I've been guilty of promoting guys to crew chief that had no desire to be in a management role. They were happier with post hole diggers in their hands than they were with a clipboard. And that led to issues, right? So you should have that conversation. You should have the succession conversation, just whatever that looks like, right? And I ask you to do that from a son that wishes his dad had that conversation with him, right? So unsolicited advice.
I'll second that from a guy whose dad never had that conversation. If I think had that conversation taken place and I saw that I could advance and could build a better future for me and my family, I may have never gone down the staining path. My staining path was, where am I going in this fence business? My dad, we weren't at each other's throats, but there was no, I knew I was in my early 20s or whatever, and I knew it's going to be a long time before I can own this business. My dad is fairly young. He's only in his middle 50s now. And so I knew it'd be a long time for me. But had he said, look, when we hit this milestone, I'm going to take you on as a partner. And if we hit this milestone, we're going to do profit sharing. If we hit this milestone, and at this point, if we can get the revenue to here, I'm going to retire early. If we can't, when I turn 55, when I turn 65, when I turn 48, whatever,
yep.
we're going to hand the reins over, and you're going to have to pay me for it. And I think the son would go, oh, I get to own something, and you work for it more. You know what I'm saying?
So I'll tell you my succession story, not that it's asked for, but so the way this went was my dad owned the business. He ran the day-to-day operations. We were doing primarily residential. We were starting to get into some commercial. So fun fact, Springfield, Missouri is a world headquarters of Bass Pro Shops. My granddad went to high school with Johnny Morris. So we did Bass Pro work. And then we started taking on a few other commercial clients. And my dad really enjoys commercial projects, selling commercial projects. So one day the conversation went something to the effect of, he and I are chatting. He goes, you know what? I want you to run the day-to-day operations, like take that off my plate. And I was already doing residential. I want you to just take over the residential and the day-to-day operations, because I think we can grow this commercial thing. And I just want to focus on that. I'm like, well, that kind of sounds like me buying this and just making you the head of the commercial. And like any good dad does, he's like, no, you weren't paying attention. What I said was this, and this. And that's how the conversation started, right? He had already made the decision that roles were changing. He didn't want to do the day-to-day. He didn't want to deal with residential. He wanted to be in commercial. And so that conversation took 6 or 8 months. But like I said, I wish that conversation had happened sooner, just to know that there was that thought out there that, hey, there's a plan. It's not well-defined. There's not a specific roadmap, But this is on my mind. I'm thinking, I don't know, I get out of here when I'm 70 maybe, or whatever the number is. Because my granddad never quit. My granddad never. So my dad bought the business from my granddad. My granddad just kept on selling fence so he left the business 2 months before he passed away. Like he was just a company guy, right? So the one thing my dad has told me is, that's not me. Like I will guarantee you, that will not be me. But anyway, I say all that just to say, I would ask you to think about what that conversation sounds like and just start having something like that. Like it's not a totally comfortable conversation to have either, right? But I would just ask you to think about what that sounds like. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I'm trying to get where I just kind of back away and say, son, run if you need me. I'll go out there and I'll check it. And our health is okay, but right now we're in a good problem, but it is a problem. We're like 2 months behind.
Yeah.
And we're trying to transition good health.
Yeah.
I don't want to smoke and drink and cussing and we're in our reputation.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
So he full well knows it. I just didn't charge him.
I like that. I like that.
What I would do at this point is my dad, I told the story, I sold the fence and he said, all right, you got it. I felt lost. I felt inadequate. I felt like I had no idea what I was doing because I had no idea what I was doing. I was a kid. I grew up in the fence business. I knew the fence business, but I didn't know business. I knew so what I would do is hold him accountable. And being held accountable a lot of times feels like getting attacked. I get up in the mornings, not every morning, but 3 days a week, and I go to jujitsu. I get up at 4 a.m. and I go and I do that before work. If I don't do that, if I miss it, if I were to oversleep, or if I'm maybe feeling lazy, I got another guy that's like, hey man, what's going on? What's the problem here? And because I know he's going to do that, I'm up and I get it done. And so a lot of times it's like people like Dave Ramsey. If you know the Dave Ramsey thing, what does he do? He jumps on people's cases, and you can do it tactfully, but you can say, hey man, what's going on here? That you're a pastor. If somebody's got a drinking problem, a marital problem, you put your hand on your shoulder and you say, hey man, I noticed this is going on. What's up? I would set parameters and goals and things for you guys in the business and hold him to it and help him get to it. Hold his hand, because I know you feel like a grown man, but you still feel like probably a little kid because you grew up as the little kid in the business. That's the way I felt. I was 25 years old and I was like, man, I still feel kind of like a kid because I don't have anybody guiding me. And that comes back to the mentor thing. So you mentor him, hold him accountable. You take the advice and understand Dad's been doing this for 25 years. Well, he doesn't understand the internet marketing. He doesn't understand how things work. Well, things are kind of maybe going back to where they used to be with marketing and advertising. So I would be whatever your dad did to get business 20 years ago, I'd be saying, hey, what did you do? What your grandpa did? You said, well, he was at the cafe every day. Well, maybe I don't want to take lunch breaks every day, but maybe you find a couple places to frequent and be the fence guy there, and you'll gain business in your town and your community. Do things like you did them early on, but also combine that with what you did. Stay accountable, work together, and be a team. Pull on the same end of the rope. That's what I would do.
So are you is he involved in business decisions, or at least sitting in on the conversations? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
He's doing good, and for the first time, my primary goal has been to please the Lord. And so what I've done is in transition him, I've kind of, for the first time, just 2-3 months ago, I just felt good. I'm driving, like you said a while ago, I'm driving off. I know he's doing quality work. I know that we're not going to have a problem if he calls me. It will be something that's going to be. And only little downfall is going to, but he's younger than our help.
Well,
How many days? How often do you read your Bible? How many? Every day. And God, the Lord, left that book for you as guidance, right? Be His guidance every day. And if you follow that, you'll be good. But remember, He left that for you, so you leave something for Him. And I think that'll make your business or break it. I think that'll be a big difference.
So and here's the thing. So you're that's to the building. You're already doing exactly what I talked about. You're promoting him to your position, right? So yeah. Well, you guys are light years ahead of where other contractors where I've seen other contractors, right? And that you're having this discussion's already been had. So don't worry about my advice on that. You're already living it, right? So in you're 21, the conversation you and I had earlier today, I would have with 35, 40-year-olds, right? In the questions you asked and how you asked them. So I like how you guys are set up, and I applaud you for having the foresight in that. So I would just keep doing what you're doing. You know, I mean, you're getting promoted up into his role, and I'll say this about driving guys: like everyone's leadership style is a little bit different, right? And you have to learn what that feels like when you don't push enough, when you push too hard, when you push, when you set a pull, that sort of thing. And that's just something you learn with experience, right? So, I mean, I'd say keep rocking with it.
Give him your what do I not see?
Oh, yeah. So in business, so I'm guilty of wearing blinders. Like I get laser focused in an issue and I don't see what's outside of here. I'm looking, and that's just how I get things done. And every now and then I'll need somebody to grab those blinders and say, hey, you're not seeing this. You need to come look at this, right? And I need that just because I don't see what I don't see. I don't know what I don't know. And so occasionally we need that tap on the shoulder to say, hey, I know you're headed that direction. I think you need to consider this, right? Or you need to at least see this. But I mean, it sounds like your head's already in that space. I'm excited. Where are you guys from? Oh, that's right. We already had. Okay. I'm excited to see where you guys go. Yep.
When you're looking for people, are you comparing what you want? Or when you say, are you looking for a $12 an hour or $20 an hour? So remember, burger flippers, guys that just stand there and do this, are now making 11, $12 an hour. A guy that's doing this needs to make 18, $19 an hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
Finally said, that's it. Minimum wage for us is $16 an hour. And there's a lot of jobs that are $11, $12 an hour. I don't want those guys anymore. Because I was going through it. Crews were messing up. Things were going wrong. I was like, we are fixing more stuff than we are building. This is terrible. I finally said, that's it. We're raising everybody's up. I'm going to hold everybody accountable. I'm going to bring in good people.
Yep.
I've got guys making $27, $30 an hour. And they're making really, really good money. Really good money. And I also lift all overtime. You work as many hours as you want. You want to work all day Saturday, baby? Let's go. But I started estimating with overtime in every single job. When I do my spreadsheet, I have 10 hours built of overtime in every single job. My rates, my labor rates. And I just say go. And I don't want anybody to have two jobs. That stinks. Because then they leave you and they go somewhere else. I want to say, you know what, I'm going to pay you $40 an hour. Going on Saturday, you're going to make 30 all day long. And we're going to kick butt. Raise up. Don't be afraid to pay. Don't be afraid to charge more. I was scared. For 4 years, I tried to get guys at 9, 10, 12. I said,
they improve, man. You're standing in our room, and it's crazy. But I know they're all making good money, and I pay them really well. And I set super high expectations. We're going to be the best. You're going to be the best. That's my Monday morning speech. I would encourage you to have a Monday morning safety meeting, 7 a.m., and I would say you will not be late. I have my guys almost scared to be late because I know timber campers, they walk in at 7:01 because that's disrespectful to me. The rest of the week, I don't care when you come to work because you're screwing that crew, not me. But on Monday, that's my time. I'm gonna tell you what, I had to sneak in the other day. We caught him on one of our security cameras. He was sneaking down, he's trying to sneak in behind everybody. Hey, Mike, your watch work? You got a watch? Oh man. Excuses are like butts. Everybody's got to put you ever lazy. I call them out right for everybody. They also know that I love them all. I care about them all. So that's that balance of that culture where you're doing. My Monday morning meetings has made a difference in my business. I encourage you. How many guys do you have? 2 or 3 guys, it's even better. You can build some intimacy, right? 30 minutes, safety topic, life lesson, find something that you love. I can't stand the Green Bay Packers. Everybody knows it. So when the Packers lose, I buy everybody donuts. They don't lose very often, so I understand. We don't win very, but they all now they have something to relate with.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a Monday morning. I spend a little bit of time. My wife and one, she's like, 40-some guys here. What's that like being possible? I know exactly how much it costs me. I know how much it's making.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Well, and what we talked about earlier during Matt's talk was hiring for culture and hiring. I can hire a good person and train them how to build fence. I can't build someone that built a good fence and train them to be a good person. Right? Like it doesn't work. You can lead that horse to water, but it will not drink. So we hire good people. And as a result of that, now we got a place full of good people, and we can work on efficiencies and we can work on skills and we can do that. But, and to Matt's point, we also pay at top of market. So we get to hire rock stars. And that conversation happens during the interview process. Like, now, just so we're clear, I hire rock stars. We are the A team. And these guys will call you out if they think you need to sit on the B squad, because that's not what we're about here. There are places where you'll fit in just right, but it won't be here. So what do you think? And we've had guys, and I bless them for their honesty. They're like, well, I don't know that this is the right fit for me. Hey, I appreciate it. I'm glad I got to meet you and talk to you, and thank you for your honesty. Now we also have guys that don't have that conversation either, that think they're rock stars and maybe they're not, and then they end up sifting out. But that would be my advice: would be hire rock stars, hire good people, and then train them to be fence guys. Building fence is not tough; it really isn't. So, yeah, guys, we're at 6 o'clock, so we're about half an hour past.
All right,
but yeah, we're providing good value. I like where we're rifting. I appreciate you guys here in the audience helping us create good content. I appreciate you guys on YouTube. One last thing, so we got one last comment. I do this sometimes. I say we're done and we're not done. So fishing and picking, just related his family story. Worked with my father for 7 years. It took a blow up for him to look at me as a man and not a son. Once I became the alpha, business doubled, and he was able to retire. Now our relationship is great. So, fortunately or unfortunately, you hear that story more than anything. That it took like some big headbutt issue to really have that conversation. And obviously that doesn't apply to your situation. But that's why, when I'm talking to generational businesses, I say, have that conversation now. Don't make it come to a blowout before you have that conversation, because then it's just not, it works out better for everyone if you have that conversation early on. But you guys are already on that track. So, yeah. Z Seeds is wrapping it up, and they say good talk. I agree. Guys, appreciate you guys. Appreciate you guys on YouTube. As you guys know, my name is Joe Everest. I'm the Joe Everest, the fence expert. Let's get that right. Reminding you that good fences make good neighbors. I'll see you guys later.